Hello, everybody, and welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl, number 54, the Plague Edition. Um, it so happens that several of us are struggling with at least minor colds or feeling under the weather, but we're going to try and break through anyway. I'm very pleased that I have three lovely people who have joined me for One World, One Blood Bowl, number 54, Blood Bowl Gone Bad. Or as I've always thought of it, if you tolerate this, hand rolling will be next. I wanted to just spend, it's actually a year, you may not realise it. It was December in 2023 when the NAF admitted or announced that they were organising a Rules and Ethics Committee for the moral correctitude of Blood Bowl. So for a year now, we have had people looking after our ethics and our morality, and I thought it was time we had a chat about that because I hadn't noticed. And just about the ethics and morality of Blood Bowl. Some of it serious, no doubt. Some of it, or I'm hoping, silly or light-hearted. But just generally a chat around the behaviour and etiquette of Blood Bowl. A game I think of as reasonably polite and well mannered. But let's see, I've assembled an everyman panel, really covering, as I've said before we started, all echelons of Blood Bowl society. From myself, obviously someone raised at the very upper strategy of stratum of British society, representing maybe the ruling elite, as I do. Deeferdan, I think there's never been a man more middle class. Look at that sofa he sat upon. Duderino, very much a man of the people. His knowledge of biscuits is rival, I would say, even the buyers of Asda. And then Dimmy Gee, representing the rest, the flotsam, the jetsam of society, those you will find under bridges. Three lovely guests. Two of them have been on. Sorry, Timmy. Two of them have been
One
on One
heart.
World, One Blood Bowl before. It's lovely if you're here with us in the chat. We are going to, as I said, try and thrash through a few issues. But to keep it light, what I'm going to ask the guys to do not only is to point out some of their own concerns or worries, but we're all going to try and give them a score between 1 and 10. So yes, we are going to tier how bad things are and see if we can find things that are legal but entirely inappropriate in the eyes of four people. First of all, we should say a huge hello to my long-time friend, but first time I think on One World, One Blood Bowl, El Duderino. Hello, my friend.
Hello, how you doing? Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Happy to dissect this world of Blood Bowl.
Well, it's lovely to have you here, and as I said, it is just as always another way of getting ourselves into our Blood Bowl. Are you enjoying your Blood Bowl of late? What you been up to this year?
It's been a very quiet year. Obviously, complete death of online for me. With Blood Bowl 2 ending, never really got into the Blood Bowl 3. I'll get it when it's fixed and
Oh,
everything's there.
wow, that
So
long.
yeah, I'm not missing it. But I had a couple of good team tournaments this year. The one in Peterborough and the obviously UKTC one, which was great. And what else? NAF Champs and obviously my part running the Divitational, which this year was just me running it actually because Homeboy won there and I missed him. You know.
And as I said again just before we started, the Devotational now one of the really big tournaments in the yearly calendar. In terms of single player tournaments, I think other than the NAFC, it may have been the biggest run in the UK last year. So incredible job you're doing there. Instantly become sort of the heart of Blood Bowl.
Thank you. It's a good tournament and it's fun to host. I just hope we get a date for next year sorted.
Well, I've heard people asking Andy, and there seems to be some cryptic messages, but I shall leave that for a time when we have him on. Lovely to have you here, dude. Welcome back, D for Dan. Long time no see. How's your Blood Bowl this year?
Hi, mate. Very nice to be here. Thank you. It's been good. I seem to be doing a lot of Blood Bowl admin this year. The Obviously, you may or may not know that I'm part of the Team England committee, so with quite a lot of involvement with that at the moment. There's a thrilling vote ongoing at the moment about changes to the Team England charter. I mean, you've got until midnight if you want to get involved with that
Yeah,
one.
I mean,
So,
yes, I've seen them. I mean, revolution is among us, isn't it? I mean, and largely the charter
and then
seems to be
obviously we've
setting
just
out what Wolfin said he wanted the structure to be and supporting
exactly,
that.
yeah,
So,
exactly that. So obviously,
despite
prior
not
to that,
necessarily
we
100% agreeing with it, I kind of think, yeah, if that's what Wolfin wants it to be and he's the captain, that's what it should currently
that's
be.
that's the idea. Obviously, yeah. So prior to that, running the election for that. In terms of actual Blood Bowl, Sam Hain Showdown. That's the new one to shout out about. 2 day in Sheffield, run
Okay.
by the mighty Thulian. Had a ridiculous field of some of the best English Blood Bowlers around, and Jock was there as well.
Okay, yeah, and he's
Um,
turning up all over the place, isn't he?
he's all right. And I think Tree went 6-0, beating K Fogged and Davo and somebody else as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was good, and it was a nice event because it wasn't massive. So I think we were speaking just before about how some of these big events are amazing, and it's great to see so much interest. But it is like being at a wedding, and then you realise that you didn't get to speak to half the people you wanted to talk to. So
yes, I was at
it's
a
nice. Yeah,
four gamer yesterday, and it was a lovely event, nice new venue, but it's such a packed day. Whilst 3 game days always feel like it's not maybe quite
yeah,
getting to a serious ending. Four games are great, but there's just so little time, even for lunches and things. Very little time to chat and socialise, which is a shame. 2 days are great, but then there's the hotel or the travel. It's almost like there isn't an answer. Maybe there should be a month of the year that we all just get together and play Blood Bowl, and the world should let us.
just Blood Bowl for a month.
Yeah, with
Oh
days
gosh.
off,
God
maybe
needs no.
once a week or something. Ah, in an AI-run future, perhaps that can come to pass. Um, okay, and what races particularly have you been up to this year? Anything
This year,
appealing?
I have been playing humans mostly for some reason. I painted them up, I think, and now I've painted some dwarves, so I guess I'll be using them next. It's
And
the
dude, I didn't
usual.
ask, what's tickling your fancy while we're on that?
Me?
Dude,
Oh, me, I just play whatever roster Hellboy gives me when I turn up on the day.
it's nice sometimes to give our decision making over to others. Dimmy Gee, long time no see. I think it's been maybe 2 episodes since I managed to cram you in.
I think
Welcome
it's been a
back.
bit longer than that, I think.
How's your Blood Bowl?
Good. Really enjoying it. Really, I've been to loads of events this year. Like my Blood Bowl's just ramping up at crazy levels now. So, event yesterday with you, event next week, and then another one 2 weeks after that. So,
Well, so you're fitting
yeah,
2 more in between now and Christmas.
yeah.
Well, I have the early stages. I'm planning to throw together an episode of people that are playing too much Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
With people getting up well over the 100 games a year now, that being, not just one or two, but I can think of 3 or 4 people doing that. That seems a lot of Blood Bowl. So it might be interesting to talk to some of them and find out how that feels and what it's made them realise or change or commit to, or do they just all have failing marriages? I mean, who knows?
Yes, say
Who?
divorce.
Yeah, absolutely. How many of them are divorced and do they know a good lawyer? Um, Great. So, and ethics and Blood Bowl. So, I said there's an ethics committee. Is that a surprise to you guys? Did you know that the NAF have an ethics and sort of morality committee looking after us all and making Blood Bowl good?
I remember when it was announced, and I remember everybody dead stay response on Facebook, which is normally always worth a laugh and a read. But that was the last I heard about it.
Dan, is this news to you?
Yeah, no, I mean,
Are you not on
I
it?
was aware. I'm aware that it's happened. I'm not on it. It's run by Volcano, but I don't know anybody else who is on it. I think
Volk's
it's
in
probably
charge
a
of the
sensible.
ethics committee. Sorry, Volk, I'm answering
It's a
this.
very good point. It's a very good point. I'm sure there'll be a list somewhere. They
Yep.
seem to be a sensible thing. I think the idea is that it creates a series of like soft skill approaches. Soft. They're not coming in elbows out. It's to kind of help support TOs, as I understand it, to create a code of conduct,
Yeah.
which is something that we've been trying to promote in like the NAP jams and things like that.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely. I
think,
mean, I think there being a sort of generally agreed to framework of what good behaviour in a tournament should look like isn't a terrible one. But I have to tell you, I went looking quite hard today for the list of who's on that committee. I can't find it. It's an appointed committee, so what the ethics are of who's on the ethics committee, or whether it is a grace and favour quango, who knows? But let's presume that ethical people have been appointed in an ethical way to the ethics committee, which is therefore setting out good ethics for us. I think that's the ethical approach for us, is to make those assumptions, but yet still to maybe ask those questions. Um, Yes, this is the One World One Blood Bowl PurpleChest shirt. Some people are asking. For those of you listening, that's a strange question. And yes, there is a large green panel on the front, but the entire of the rest of it is purple. Don't blame me. Blame the limited options available at the company where I bought them. Um, Dimmy, how surprised were you by the existence of a ethics and morality committee?
I mean, the surprising thing is that they haven't contacted me to have a go at me. That's the biggest shock about it. But yeah, like you say, like pretty much the same as deeferdan. I knew it was a thing, and I briefly heard like Volk was on it, but I've not really heard of
Though
too
leaving
much
the
happening.
name out, you did hint that you think someone you know may have been spoken to either by
I
a
think
tournament organizer
someone.
or by this
Well,
committee.
I heard some whispers that someone had a tap on the shoulder at one point, but I don't know what it means. I don't know what was said. I don't know, but I believe someone had a little tap on the shoulder, said, "Look, be a bit nicer when you're at a tournament because other people are there to enjoy themselves, and you might be hindering their enjoyment of the tournament."
Well, I mean, this is a strange times we live in. We're going to see, removal squads on the streets of America. So perhaps we're going to have them in Blood Bowl tournaments. But at the same time, the new elected leader of the free world is very anti all this woke nonsense. So perhaps we should roll back the idea of ethics and just let people do whatever they want. I mean, that obviously is true freedom. So I've got some behaviours that both I've collected and people have suggested. I have to say, for once, really loads of people contacted me in total private and said, don't put my name to this, but I don't like this. So I suspect they don't want to be linked to a certain incident or time where people can work out who has said this isn't something they like. But I just want to throw a few things out just to get the conversation going. Let's see what you think of some of these little options. We're going to start with aggressive chat game. So someone is aggressive in their chat game whilst playing you. How bad out of 10 would you rate that? Someone is, by aggressive, I mean they're actually saying things like, I really hope you fail this, or, I'm going to absolutely pound you in the second half. People are deliberately using aggressive language about the game.
Oof.
We'll talk about if it's legal in a minute, but out of 10, how bad is it? Dimmy,
Is 10 high or low?
10
Sorry,
would be high.
let's get this in
So
straight.
if we end up in the high 30s, this is something we think is well out of order.
I, I would go high with that. I would go like 8 or 9
Oh, okay.
because I don't think it's a game of like psychological
Yeah.
warfare. It's a game of dice,
Okay.
and I have experienced it myself, and it does put you off. And a lot of us who play Blood Bowl, we're not the most socially stable or anything else as well. Without going immediately down the violin route, but
Yep.
it's you got to be. You don't know who you're talking to sometimes.
Okay.
You don't know these people outside of the world that you're talking to them in, and I have experienced that, and I know other people who've experienced that where they have felt that they are ready to pack it in and go in because of the way that somebody else is speaking.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where this isn't a funny one. This is at the real end of this. This is,
Yeah,
ruining
absolutely.
someone else's day and experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking an 8
So I
from
would
Dan
give
on
it a
that.
good 8.
Dimmy, have you had it? And what do you think of someone bringing an aggressive chat game to Blood Bowl?
I mean, you you got to define the aggressive chat because I'm probably guilty of it without realizing.
I was without
Yeah.
jumping in, Dimmy. Without jumping in, the first time that I ever met you
Oh
was at
wow.
Water Bowl.
Yeah.
No, it definitely wasn't aggressive chat, but it was chat. And I was
I've got another
playing
one
and you
for
were playing.
inane banter. Don't worry, that's
You were
another
playing.
behaviour that's been named.
You were playing someone else, but I chatted to the person you were playing afterwards, and they were like, "I could not handle that guy. He was just, he was just like relentless." So
I was enjoying myself.
it
To
was not aggressive. It was not
But-
aggressive, but it was, yeah, full on.
Yeah, I've toned myself down a bit actually since then. So, like, because the thing is a lot of the like I know a lot of people now as well. So, like, if I know someone, I'm like worse with them than I would be with someone I don't. But the problem is sometimes people hear me talking to people, not realizing that I know them and stuff, and then they probably think I'm worse than I am. But
So you're only
like,
rude to people you love. Very Australian of you.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much, pretty much.
Okay, give me a score out of
Yeah.
10, Dimmy.
I would go like I don't know what you're talking about really. So
That may
like
be the case all evening, so let's not let that
like
be a barrier.
I mean, well, people who like chant roll a one or roll
Yeah.
a one. I mean, that's really annoying. But then like me going, oh, I wouldn't have done that, mate. Like when they fail or dodge, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna give it a 5 or
Okay.
5.
Dude, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, now there's a difference between sort of like, you know, hope you fail, roll a one, or I'm glad he's dead, and what I would do, because I'm not really normally silent during a game myself. You're going to get spoken at, not to, by me. So, but I always like to think it's friendly banter, not, oh, you're going to fail. You know,
So when it goes
what,
beyond that into genuine aggression,
yeah, 7, 8, 8. I'll give it an 8.
2 8s and a 5. I'm going to come in with a 6. I think it's understandable if people are being a little bit aggressive with their chat sometimes. I think there is a point where it gets too far. All right, I'm going to go with I'm talk to myself now into a 7. I want some headroom above there, but I do think this is quite bad. That gives us a total of, I believe, 28. 2 8s and a 7. Yeah, that's 28 for aggressive chat. That's quite a high score. But I don't think we're saying that's the worst thing we've ever heard of in Blood Bowl. Little Yoshi's thrown something interesting into the chat as we're going through that. What about when you feel there's an actual aggressive threat from over the table? He said there's a time he didn't use a re-roll because he feared he'd get punched by the opponent if he did, and it worked.
Yeah, but from little Yoshi, that was that 10-year-old he was
Yeah,
playing.
yeah.
So, I mean,
was gonna
that's
say,
a
I mean,
real bad example.
When does little Yoshi not feel under
Yeah.
aggressive physical threat? I think that's a limited window, but
I have never felt an aggressive physical threat at Blood Bowl.
but if you did a 9 or a 10,
If somebody was being aggressive to that point, then I'm throwing him out of the event.
yeah.
Like, I don't. Sorry for being boring. So it's 100% a 10.
Dimmy?
Yeah, I've actually heard some pretty raised voices at events, and yeah, it's not cool.
Sorry about that, Tim.
Well, no, I mean like in a kind of like, well, like it probably wasn't meant as threatening, but it definitely sounded it from like across the room and stuff. So I apologise to the guy I shouted at.
Yeah.
But we're all saying any form of presumably any form of physical threat is just out of order,
Yeah,
isn't
it's 10, 100% 10. Yeah.
Okay, so that's getting an instant
Depends on the
40 from us.
circumstance.
Yeah.
Okay, that's getting an instant 40. Now, we don't always have to stay
I didn't give a
incredibly
high grade
serious.
there.
There are some silly ones in here, but there are some serious ones too. Some have been thrown at me by others, and one of those that's cropped up twice is metal dice cups. To which I'm adding just in general loud dice cups. I once was given one that was wooden, and it was like you were trying to end the world when you shook dice in that. So how bad out of 10 is metal dice cups? Is it something you should even be bothered about, or is it all just fine, get over yourself?
All dice cups are 10 out of 10 pad. They instantly slowed the game down, in my opinion.
Okay, it's a 10 from Dude just for using a dice cup.
Yep.
Dimmy.
I'm going 0 because at least they're using a dice cup.
Okay, so we've polarised the panel on dice cups here. Deefer, be the voice of sanity. Tell me this is a wrong thing, isn't it?
Metal dice and metal dice cups can get in the bin. So a 6.
Okay.
Because all the dice cups are a 0.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big dice cup fan, but loud dice cups are an absolute menace. It's not.
Well, actually, yeah. Let's think about this as well. To be fair, because it's not the cup's fault that's making that much noise. It's the person that's using the cup. You could probably swish that thing like a fine whiskey, and you'd be all right. But there's some people who really get into it, don't they? And they give it a good whack, hitting the table really hard with you.
The slam down cups. Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at. I'm giving this about a 4, so I think we're coming out at about a 20 here. We think that loud dice is bad. It's not okay, but at least there's worse things in Blood Bowl. But try not to be a pain in the arse with whatever it is that you're rolling. Okay, let's grab another one randomly off my list, and then we'll come around and have some of your guys' ones. Just ruling out the ones I've done. Okay, now this is one that crops up time and time again. I swear I think this is cultural, but some people just say it's out of order and rudeness. You're playing someone at Blood Bowl, either online or in real life. Some dice are rolled, and one of their players, the result comes up that they are dead, and you say, "I'm sorry."
Oh.
Is that okay?
No.
Dimmy, tell me why not? Why is that not okay?
Just don't apologize because they're really happy they're dead. I know it. They know it. Like, just don't apologize. Just don't. Just don't.
What?
Deefer?
Even
Come on,
if
you
the
strike me as a man,
situation,
dude.
I was just gonna say, even if the situation Dim is 1 in 36 to dodge and then sort of like failed his armor and died, you can't say, Jesus, mate, that was unlucky. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're just making it worse. Like,
Fair enough.
yeah,
This is a difference between online and real life, because in real life you can actually be empathetic, whereas anybody who says anything online to me like I'm sorry, I instantly think they're taking the piss. You know,
That's a really good point.
So is in online? It's not okay because anything there is going to trigger you. No, it's never going to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
No
you
one's
can't
ever going to
use
think
it.
you're reaching out human to human.
I rarely ever spoke online when I was playing, unless I'd span into Dimmy or something, and then I would chat because I know it's Dimmy. But if it was anybody I had I've rarely chatted online at all.
Deefer, is this okay with you? I kill your best piece, your favourite player, and I say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I probably would say sorry.
what
That's just
after
because
you?
I
Hey,
apologise for everything. Because I'm English.
what about if you just fouled them?
Yeah, I'd still say, oh, sorry, mate. But I might say
Oh
like
my
that.
god, you just
Sorry, mate.
fouled them. Like, you're literally trying to kill them.
No, but I 100% would say sorry because I'm English.
So is it a cultural thing?
Yeah, I think so. Because a Frenchman wouldn't say sorry.
No, a Frenchman would cheer.
Yeah,
Yeah, a Spanish player would. Yeah,
So is that
head
more
round the. Yeah,
emotionally honest if you kill a thing to just smile and go, yes, I'm very glad that happened and that your thing is dead?
yeah, totally. Yeah, but I
Okay.
don't think it's bad. I think
So how bad is it? Because people get very offended by people saying sorry. It's
yeah.
worse than the action happening. As Dimmy said, you've made it worse by saying sorry. How bad is it, Dimmy?
I've never known anybody be offended by it though. But obviously, if I ever play Dimmy, I will apologise for every single
oh my
successful
god.
thing that.
Now that you know it'll trigger him.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with an 8 on that. Like,
8? Wow.
yeah, it annoys me. It annoys
Okay.
me.
Deefer, you're not bothered by this, are you?
3.
3.
Well,
Okay.
two actually. 2.
Dude, are you bothered? And how would you score it?
Well, like I say, online, yeah, bothers me. Live doesn't bother me. So does that mean I've got to be a 5?
Yeah, I think it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me at all. I absolutely get that they're speaking from empathy, so I'm going to give it a 2 as well. I'm afraid sorry is only getting 17 out of 40 for unacceptability. If I say sorry, and I try not to now because I know it triggers people, I find myself stopping, and then I feel guilty for not having empathy for them. And I think it is that English thing, Deefa. I'm not sorry I
Yeah.
did it, and I'm not sorry about the outcome. I'm thrilled about both, or I wouldn't have done it. But I'm kind of sorry from your perspective. I see that you may be feeling sad about that, and I'm sorry you are in that state, even though I'm happy I did it.
Can
I
I ask
know
you,
that still doesn't make sense.
can I ask a question, PC?
Yeah,
If we were playing darts and
yeah.
you checked out on 170, would you turn to me and go, sorry, mate?
No, I wouldn't. No, I would also assume that we'd all fallen into an entirely different world where I
Yeah.
can throw 3 darts and
Yeah,
all
the
of them hit the
darts.
board. But no, I'd be celebrating that for years, and I definitely wouldn't apologise in any way.
Yeah.
But I haven't killed something that you might care about.
I was hoping to win that game. I cared about that.
That's right. I have killed your hopes and dreams and your sense of self-respect. Maybe you've got a point. I don't know, but we're scoring sorry very low. Okay, I want to take one from El Duderino. What is a behaviour that you think is not okay?
I don't know if this counts as a behaviour,
Or
but I think
in-game
everybody who
action, or
knows me
just...
knows it's the thing I hate the most about tabletop, which is proxy teams.
Yeah, no, I had that on my list. Now,
I hate proxy teams.
specifically, are we talking, Muppets telling you their slang?
Yeah, no, I'm a
Or,
bit
because
telling me they're slam penguins, freaking penguins, and Dragon Ball Z as the chaos that's got the dark elf, the orc, the goblin, and the three different big guys, i.e., the most variants of a team you could possibly have. And I mean, I'm already suspending belief that the dwarf is playing American football, and I'm about at that level. But now I've got to rearrange my entire thinking and try to work out there are perfectly good figures that can represent, and I can instantly look and tell what it is. It's game playing, as far as I'm concerned.
Ah,
It's almost an extra step that I have to take to play the game that you don't have to. And I believe my counter to this is I have 11 2p coins that I carry with me. Some are labeled 1984. They are the Blitzers. Some are labeled 1979.
brilliant.
They are the linemen. And so, I can play this game too, and I will be that petty. And I think the rules should. And I'm sorry, this is really my soapbox and the one I had ready for tonight in a big way.
Bless you.
But it's if you are bringing this team and someone is willing to play you with that team, that's fine. But if they're not, you should have a backup team that represents the figures in the traditional Blood Bowl style. Okay,
So the
and
famous Fork Kemry team, where Forks
woman,
stood all the way up with the Tomb Guardians, Forks bent halfway were the Blitzers, and then Forks that were almost on the ground with just the prongs up. Those
No.
were the line. I mean, it was easy to tell, but these were Forks.
yeah, I'm not like a Games Workshop purist, but you can't knock what has been the system since Blood Bowl 2, which is linemen pretty much stand there at a stand easy. Blitzers are always got 1 foot and 1 arm going forward. A thrower's normally holding the ball, and a catcher's got his hand in the air.
Dude, I do
You
feel
can work
like
it
you're
all
someone
out.
that's just said, I'm not radical, but we should own women again. You've just called for an end to sort of exciting dynamic models. You just want all your linemen like this.
You can have all them dynamic models, but the linemen all need to sort of like be in a similar damn pose. It's sort of like it can't be one lineman's got
I
one
hear the
hand up and
painters
one hand
screaming.
down. Oh, they
So
can
you're
be.
not a Kickstarter fan where they tend to be more varied poses.
Um, like the last Grebo Obsidian Dusk, they were perfectly fine dark elves. You could
Okay.
tell exactly what each one of those was perfectly. And they're very interesting for anybody who wants to paint out there. But Disney princesses can go and jump off a cliff as far as I'm
No
concerned.
cutimals in your Blood Bowl. There's
No,
one more thing I want to check because I hadn't seen it for a while, but I saw it yesterday at the tournament I was at. What about if I want to bring Slan, but I don't have any Slan? But if I brought my Dark Elves as the frogs, and then I could bring some Amazons as the catchers, and I do have a Croxigore, would that be alright? I'm using Blood Bowl figures, but I'm using the wrong race.
we've all had to do something. Like I remember someone lost their team at one of my the first day invitational, and we had a spare set of dark elves, and we managed to fashion them into a human team. They had 4 blitzers, the witch elves became the catchers, the run elves became the throwers.
Yeah.
These things have to happen. What you've just described, no. If you're anywhere in the Blood Bowl community or you want to reach out to someone, you can ask for someone to bring a slan team. Everybody's got 2 teams at least. Most people like some people have got 40 teams. Some people like lending out teams. You can normally get a team if you want to, rather than make your opponents suffer that hideous monstrosity of extra thinking every turn, of having to look at it and work out what the
Okay.
hell I'm going to
It's a
do.
very persuasive rant, very, very persuasive. Um, I don't know. I mean, Dimmy, what do you think?
I think there's two sides to this. So, I mean, firstly, I just totally agree with Duderino. But my biggest concern is like to be accused of like gatekeeping or anything like that. So like how I'd shut that down is if you're new to the hobby and it's like your first way getting in, it's fine, mate. Just get your minis in,
Yeah.
play what you want, get playing. If you're 3 years down the line and you turn it up to like 50 tournaments a week, like sort your life out, get a team, like get the right models. Like it's like it hinders the enjoyment of your opponent's experience, which is the big issue, right? And yeah, like that, I was there at the tournament. I thought that was totally outrageous, to be honest. And another shout out to anyone who sees me on the list of people attending a tournament. I own a lot of races that are painted. If you don't own it and you want to play it, just message me, and there's a good chance I'll lend it to you as well.
I mean, I kind of want to be on both stools here. I'm guilty. I've done it. I don't know. Judge me, dude. I didn't have high elves, so I took my pro elves along.
That's
They're the
not much
Games
of a
Workshop pro
difference.
elves. So that is confusing to people because they look like
It
pro
is
elves all the time. But I said they're high elves, and hence the catchers, blitzers, line elves. But they're pro, not high. They're high elves, not pro. Is that all right,
That's
or
borderline okay.
am I in
No,
the bin?
that's absolutely fine. They're elves, which
It's
the
not.
elven blitzers are blitzers, the catchers are catchers, and
Yeah.
the throwers are throwers. You know, the whole established belief they're high elves is done at the start of the match. These are high elves. All right, okay.
Okay.
And any decent Blood Bowl player knows their armor. Sorry, how'd you say it now? 8+ instead of 9+.
9+ instead of 8+. Yeah, yeah.
All right,
We
yeah.
haven't heard you on this, Dan. What do you think?
No, I 100% agree as well. I didn't know Paul was so sensible. I'll be honest, dude. I apologise. That is absolutely the number one thing for me these days. Is it because it is a piss take, and it does 100% get you an unfair advantage over your opponent.
Wow. Okay.
Because-
So
Although, I mean, there are a few exceptions. So I still hated it. It was a Fallout themed ogre team, and there were 6 bottles and 10 bottle caps or something like that. I don't know. I didn't get the reference, but it was ogres and noblars, right? So the slight difference being that one of the bottles was painted brown instead of red because that was the kicker ogre. But it was grim. It was a grim experience, but it was ogre, so you could kind of manage. The example that Dude gave around Renegades. There's a Pokemon team going around at the moment that keeps on turning up as different bloody races at different things as well. So you might have played this person and their team before when they were using Chaos Dwarves, and now they're using Shambling Undead, and it's the same figures. Even they haven't even thought about it from that perspective. It's still a Pikachu, but now it's a ghoul instead of a.
yeah, I mean, I have to say,
Centaur.
Pikachu is the one that I know what it is. If they sat down and told me all the other names and said what they were, that wouldn't have informed me at all. I would have just heard a string of nonsense syllables said to me.
That was the thing. This lad was saying things to me like I knew what Dragon Ball Z was.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of bloody Dragon Ball Z.
Chiborde flag is the blitzer. Great. What's a Chiborde flag? I mean,
Yeah.
that probably is something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it is.
Okay,
I
so
think
how
it gives an
bad
unfair
is
advantage,
using
obviously.
a proxy team?
Then
10 for
No.
a dude. Wow. Worse than
I mean,
threatening,
it's
as
not
bad
worse.
as threatening to
It's
punch
not
someone.
worse than threatening someone to kill them if you're going to.
I did not give a score on that because I might be guilty of that at the Welsh Open last year. There
I
was
assumed a
particular
10 on
player
you,
who got
dude.
to get
I
to it.
assumed we all
But
went
yeah.
10. Okay, Dan, how bad is it?
Okay, 9.
Dimmy.
I'm going to say 8 because there are times when it's acceptable, but not many.
Yeah, I'm coming in with an 8 as well. That's the worst behaviour other than punching someone in the face we've found so far. We're collectively scoring that at 35 out of 40.
That can't be worse than bloody shit
An
talking
aggressive
people during a
chat
game.
so far. We've decided that's worse. So obviously,
Hang on.
this is a genuine scientific process we're going through here, and this is a definitive list that I'm drawing up at the end of it.
It's kind of working for me because I've never took proxies, but I nearly had to remind someone that this was a game once.
While we're on the subject, there was one that cropped up that's a little bit related, and I've actually had once someone turning up with an unpainted metal or resin team.
I thought that was against the rules. I thought there was a 3 colour minimum on all sort of
Yeah, they're
like.
off-
Tends to be, but again, as Dimmy was saying, for newer players, for people that just haven't got to painting things yet but want to play, it does happen. They do squeak in.
Yeah, we've had experienced players come to events, though, at the NAF Champs, for example, which led us to changing the rules. So we had a really experienced Italian coach come over with a completely naked metal wood elf team.
I think that was one I faced.
And I think he came third. It was bad. Yeah, can't remember who it was. But we changed the rules as a result of that to say you can't actually win anything because I think they came third or second overall.
Right.
And it's you can't win anything if you don't do it. But at the same time, because the NFC, like you're saying, that tournament is designed to be like, to come to this, it's your first tournament, so we don't want to say that it's gonna mean that you can't come, but it doesn't mean that you can't win anything, which is maybe a bit miserable, but I think it's an important stipulation.
I mean, I hate barriers to entry. I love people to come and be able to play. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would, I think every tournament should say on it, if you don't have a team, contact us and one will be arranged.
Yeah.
And we can always lend a human or an all team to anyone if they know how to play it. I don't want not having a team and not having it painted to be a barrier to anyone. But the time I played it at the NAFC, it was under lights as well, and then it gleaming off all the metal, I had to look really hard what everything was each turn. I was in that L dude situation of it. I had another layer of complication because of this. Dimmy, is it all right? You sit down with someone, they've got bare metal or bare plastic. Are you cool with it?
It depends where it is and who it is particularly and stuff. But I mean, it annoys me. It annoys me, but I understand it. And the only reason, like, to be fair, it annoys me. Like, it wouldn't have annoyed me when I first started because I didn't really care about painting. But like, I've quite grown to like painting and stuff. And like, it's a lot of effort, yeah, but I feel like it's like, yeah, it's just nice. It's like, for me, it's like immersion, isn't it? One of the draws of Blood Bowl is how it looks and all that and stuff like that. And it just, it's one of the things that makes it slightly less enjoyable if they're not painted. And I know that sounds really petty, but it's how I feel, right?
That's all I'm interested in is how you feel. Now, in terms of how you feel, because I'm not going to score that one. I think we scored Proxy, and we can all say that's not as bad as Proxy, and lots of new people
Yeah.
doing that, and there's reasons why it has to be sort of okay. If someone's their first tournament, they turn up with just metal, they should still get a game, or plastic, as it now tends to be. Dimmy, what's one of the things you think is unacceptable in Blood Bowl as a behaviour on pitch, or by the coach, or by the tournament organisers, or by the NAF, anything? What is Blood Bowl
Right.
gone wrong?
I am going to say that Proxies was on my list.
Right.
Proxies was on my list. So I'm going to go for something that I don't know if you guys would have gone for. And it's people's reroll management, right? So every person you play against seems to use different ways of like marking their rerolls. Like some people build them
All
up
right.
as a tower, some people like flip them over, and then some people like move them to the side. And I've spoken to people and said, look, when you move that reroll, like move it away from the board because we've all like knocked our elbows, like knocked our counters over and stuff like that. And then you get to turn 6 and you're like, you've only got one reroll. They're going, no, I've got two. And like it's just something again that really grinds my gears. It's like be nice and clear with your rerolls. Like I
Yeah.
wish there was a universal system agreed by everyone that everyone would do.
I
Um,
thought there was in the previous incarnation,
Yeah,
which is
GW.
what I did.
What was that, dude?
Well, I always, when you could only use one a turn, I had them stacked up on the edge. And let's say it was the middle of turn 4 and I used the reroll counter then got put on in the turn 4
Yeah.
slot of that, So it was like, oh, did I use a reroll? Yes, I used it in turn 4. So I've only got one left, that sort of to mark when it was used. I used to just have them mark their 1, 2, 3 and remove them 1, 2, 3 as I use them. But then after a couple of games of experience and seeing someone else doing that, I was like, aha, that's the
Yeah, I
way
have to
to
say
do it.
that's the habit I was in of stacking them up on
Yeah, so
most boards. There's the 1 to 8 for the turn counter, and then there's a space just before it where you put your turn counter until turn 1 starts, and there's a 1 to 8 for re-rolls, and then there's a little spot before it where you can put your re-roll markers. And I think that was because most people did that, which was you'd move the turn counter along, and as you used a re-roll, you'd drop it on the turn you used it. And then if halfway through that turn, you could, as dude said, look back and go, oh yeah, I have used a re-roll this turn. I have to say, I noticed talking about this and thinking about my behaviour yesterday, because I noticed yesterday, I've gone lazy. Now I put the pile where I've always put it, but when I use one, I just take it off and put it to the side of the board. I don't
hate
put
it.
it on the turn marker anymore.
Mm.
Am
I
I
think that's
guilty, Dimmy?
okay. I think that's okay as long as you take it away.
It
That's
has
what
to
I've
be
started to do.
well
Like,
away though.
literally
Well
move it
away.
a long way away because I used to do the same as Dude, and it was really a useful like
Yeah.
aid memoir around whether or not you'd used the reroll that turn, right? But now, yeah, it doesn't work because you start stacking them up and it gets a mess.
And I've
So
seen
I
people
try and
say
remove
they put them like
really.
from 4 down to 0 now, and then they'll just move them
Yeah,
off as they
yeah,
count them down. I can see that being useful
yeah.
to them. But I do think is this the standard thing of you should think about, from the opponent's point of view, are you doing a behaviour that makes life difficult for them? And if you are, try and stop it. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I think so. I think all of that counter management, it goes into all of that. It's the same with bribes and stuff like that. I had a bit of a run in with somebody at the Welsh Nationals this year where there was a misunderstanding about a bribe being used, but I just had to take it on the chin because at the end of the day, I hadn't brought enough bribe takers with me. so I was adamant that I'd still got one left, but there was
There wasn't a token for it.
It wasn't there, so I just have to take it. And so since then, I've been really clear about it, and it's one of the things that I would talk about pre-game now, around like token management. This is what I'm going to do with these things. This is what I'm going to do if these dice land cocked or on top of each other and stuff.
Yeah,
like
because
that.
we do. I mean, it's actually in, as we'll see, the code of moral conduct that you should announce before the game. Here's what I do with dice. Here's what I do and don't re-roll. And to me, I always say now, I use a cup and a pad, and if it comes out as a shake, it's re-rolling, and if it isn't on the pad, if it comes out in any way, it gets re-rolled. And that way, people always know what is and isn't going to count. Perhaps I should say, and here are my counters, and here's what I do with them.
Yeah. Exactly.
How long is our introductory spiel going to be?
It is quite long, and it's one of the things I was going to talk about today. It gets even worse when the other person says, "Oh, well, I don't do that. I do it differently," and then you're like, "Well, I've taken the initiative and explained how I'm going to do it. So, but now you're telling me that I'm doing it wrong, and I have to do it a different way." So,
should we also be telling people if we're nut intolerant? I mean, how long is this intro going to be?
Absolutely, I voted. I didn't vote Brexit, and I'm going to re-roll.
Dude, are we crazy? Is Dimmy bothering you? Have you been triggered here?
No, I you've got to. I'm the same because I'm a hand roller. Then I always have the conversation at the start about cock dice and things of these sort of like matters. I've never described how I'm doing my re-rolls because I thought it was so obvious, but
it's not.
Well, okay.
Oh, that sounds like you two have a unfinished history.
So what about your?
No, I'm normally a lot higher up the room, so I go get the blame.
What about your hand rolling, dude? Have you ever had any problems with that?
We have points about that. Don't you worry. Let's just score this one, and we'll definitely move on to that if that's where we want to go next.
I'll save it for them.
Before I come to you for your first negative one, we'll deal with some hand rolling then, Dan.
Okay.
So let's score poor re-roll and token management out of 10 for how awful it is. Dimmy.
I know it's going to sound hypocritical. I'm only going to say 6 because it's not that. It's just a minor niggling annoyance.
But it's one other people aren't picking up on, and it does annoy you. I get it, my friend.
Yeah.
6 from Dimmy. Dan.
I would go 7 because I think it is probably the best way of cheating.
Right.
It's the most sort of manageable way of
obfuscating when your various bits and bobs haven't been used.
Yeah. So I would go 7.
Okay. El Duderino.
5.
Okay, that gives us 18. I'm gonna agree. I think because of that cheating worry and because it is an area that's still really, really unclear, I'm gonna go in with a 7 as well. Taking that one to, we've had 2 7s and a 5 and a 6.
We needed to bring a calculator to this.
I'm making that 25. Or it's about there. Anyway, it's notably lower than Proxy teams being too loud or aggressive in-game chat. It's on my list. It has been mentioned. Hand rolling in general, before we come to 2 specific subcategories. So hand rolling in general, how bad out of 10 is it? Duderino.
It's quicker than you dice cup idiots sitting there shaking it like a freaking cocktail for half an hour before you roll it. Honestly, first rule, someone gets out a dice cup, ask for a time clock. Because it's all that bloody time. I could be having a fag. I personally, the way my figures are boxed, they're the old Games Workshop box from the 80s, made up of 2 sections. You lift the top off and put it to the side, and there is the tray that I just flick my dice into and roll like a craps table, bouncing it off the back wall before it comes to rest. Has an occasional.
If you hand roll and have a back wall to bounce off, I withdraw all objections.
Yeah.
In a tray with a back wall that it bounces off, I'm fine with it.
That's what I do.
Dan, how bad is hand rolling?
Yeah, I agree with you, PC. it needs to be into a tray or something, and it needs to actively move. Because I've seen a bit of this activity. That's the little hand tip
The two things I was going to talk
and
about
all of
is
that sort of
plopping and sliding.
stuff.
So I'd call that plopping, where they just
Yeah.
two just seem to come out of the hand and drop vertically without a lot of rolling going
Really
on and
land on a couple
land.
of sticks.
So I don't like
Yeah.
plopping and I don't like sliding. Where again, two dice are moving along the table quite a lot, but not a lot of tumbling seems to be happening.
Yeah.
So I worry about those two behaviours. Dimmy?
Um, yeah, I hate hand rolling, especially like if you like when they're hitting your models,
And that
like
was the other one I knew would have come up, yeah.
they're or they're sliding all across the table, like you're picking them up. The other thing as well, like so the little mats that people use. The annoying thing is when you're sat down, you can't see the results. When they're right next to them and you're opposite end of the table and they're rolling into their little cubicle, the hexagonal thing, I can't see what you're rolling. So I always end up asking them to flatten it out because I can see it, but then you can't roll them into it. So just use a
Yeah.
cup, man. Just use a cup, have it flat, whack it down. I can see the dice.
I
I'm,
will bow.
dude,
I prefer a dice tower to a dice cup.
I've got Dice Tower entry coming up in a minute, so let's save Dice Tower chat for that. It's a very specific niche one, but it'll get us into dice cups. I faced someone yesterday at the tournament. I don't remember which of the four people I played, but they had a dice tray, which they'd dropped one end to be entirely flat, and that was the end,
Yeah.
sort of mostly turned towards me. They rolled into that, which was then away from the board, but visible to me, and they were hand rolling, and I had absolutely no problems. It was rolled into a tray. It was mostly hitting the back wall, not every time, but mostly it did. There was lots of tumbling going on. That looked like good random dice. Again, is it hand rolling is the problem here, or is it dice that don't in some way in your brain sit into that looks like a good roll? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the action, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the tray is the key, really.
Okay.
And like Dimmy says, and how you described, that sounds perfectly acceptable. As
Some
long as you can
people
see it.
just love rolling their dice. They love rolling them on the board, despite the risk to figures. Is that okay,
Yeah, that's annoying.
dude? Is that okay?
No, you shouldn't really roll into someone's figures. They could get chipped, they could get damaged. Some people they could be going for best painted, and your chip could do damage. No, I'm a hand roller, but I'm a conscientious hand roller.
Right. Okay. So this appalling, terrible behaviour can be okay as long as you mitigate the downsides.
No, you should just use a cup.
And like I say,
Okay.
if you do use a cup, you're instantly slowing the game, and you should be on a time clock.
Yeah, you say that, but I'd rather the game be slower and me not think, oh my god,
Oh,
the
my
game.
game's fine. It's your game that's slower, not mine.
And the dice hasn't even rolled, like you know what I mean. And the problem is, if you could roll 9 times out of 10 perfectly, but the one time you don't roll, nobody mentions it because you've been hand rolling all game. But they've slid, and like no human's perfect. No human can make them dice roll properly like every single time. It's like
How much skill do you think there is in trying to get a set of dice to actually come up on the number that you want? Because if in any way you can do it, go Vegas, play craps,
Yeah.
and
Would you be wasting
retire.
your time at Blood Bowl if you could do that with dice?
it's completely irrational. But it's one of them things that just annoys me the whole game, and it takes away from my enjoyment.
Fair
Did-
enough.
Well, let's not fall out. This is the whole point of this evening, isn't it? Is these behaviours trigger different people in different ways?
I'm not going to fall out. I'm just going to take my proxy team, threaten him, and hand roll.
I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't like.
Whilst
I did.
apologising constantly, dude.
Yeah,
Every time
sorry.
you roll, you should just say sorry, Dimmy, and hand roll.
I
Every
played
time.
someone yesterday, and I said I hate hand rolling, and he said, "Would you prefer I use a cup?" And I said yes, and I was like, "I feel bad, but yes, I would." And he was like, "No problem, I'll use a cup." And I thought that was really nice of him.
I
So,
prefer you coach blindfold.
but I wouldn't insist on it. It would just annoy me. Like I'd just suffer it in silence, you know. So
you'd just brood and dwell and look mean at them.
yeah.
Okay, I think it's time to move on before we end up with a call ending disagreements. How bad is? I'm going to say how bad is hand rolling if you're not considering the impact on others. So hand rolling where you haven't got a tray, there's not appropriate amounts of bounce going on, where there's threat to the figures and there's threat of plopping and sliding. So those are my two negatives from the hand rolling, particularly. How bad is that?
It's the threat of plopping and sliding I don't see as a threat, because sometimes that just happens. It's physics. It's the way it goes. The damage to the an opposing player's figures by erroneous hand rolling is an 8 or a 9, in my opinion.
Okay. Deefer?
I was going to say 6.
6?
Dimmy?
Wow. 8.
Taking us up to a 22. See, I've been keeping score internally this time.
Well,
I'm going to try and learn from my mistakes. I'm going to have to give it a 6, I think. So that's going to give it a total of 28.
Why do we keep coming out with the same answers? This is very
I don't know. I love some people that I know are hand rollers, and I played one. I won't name them because Kalon wouldn't like it. And all the way through, he played absolutely great, and it was fine, and there was no danger of the figures. But at the end of the game, and I definitely don't think the man cheats in any way whatsoever. I mean, he'd do much better at his Blood Bowl if he did. But there was at least twice where those dice didn't bounce or roll in ways that looked like dice should bounce and roll in my heart. And I always feel that when I'm playing anyone that's hand rolling. Not the other day when I said it was in a nice tray, I could see it. One of the ends was down. All very visible, all very nice, all very. What would my opponent want? And I think that's a great way to look at every behaviour in Blood Bowl if you're trying to be a decent human, or of course not if you're not. We are going to talk about dice towers if we get the time, but it's a very niche little thing. Yes, people get annoyed at them too, and yes, they have their own issues. But before we do, I haven't had a negative issue from Deefer, so let's find out what's bothering Dan.
I've got 2 at the forefront, but I'm going to stick.
Well, I'll give you
on
definitely time
dice.
for at least one more, so let's start with the first.
Okay, great. So on the dice theme, I reckon this will be a quick one. Unconventional dice symbols on your block dice. Get in the bin. Get in the bin. The only dice I think are acceptable are probably either of the iterations of the GW dice. Otherwise, I even at a push maybe those impact ones and some of the Black Hawk Down ones. But if it's not a skull or an obvious pout or some sort of exclamation mark or an arrow, then you're playing a different game.
Then literally in the bin. I don't want to have to face them. Okay.
No.
Are fumble dice included on the positive side here?
I think they probably just about make it because that looks like they look like the things they claim to be, don't they? So
otherwise, you and I would have fallen out fairly majorly.
Yeah.
I might be
I
the
think
world's
they're
largest owner
strong
of
enough.
fumble dice.
They're strong enough characters that
Yeah.
they're different.
And
But they're not a
reasonably well
banana.
known within the game.
No.
Yeah, or just a line.
Yeah.
It was the Greek ones where one of them was just a line, a diagonal line. I'm like, what the heck is that?
I think
Again,
that was. They described it to me as a seed of flax, if I remember rightly, on some Greek dice I got.
Okay, well that explains it then. Are you triggered by this, dude? If you're facing something and the block dice are unique and exciting.
I'll have to, as one of the original buyers of Blood Bowl back in the 80s, I'm of an age now where my vision comes in 2 sections. I can see what I can see on my side of the board, and if I want to see over the other side of the board, sometimes I have to put glasses on, or if I'm wearing it gets complicated. And yeah, clear symbols really do help. I've had occasions where I've thought that, what's that? And I'm actually having to lean across and go, what is that? And like Deefer says there, the Games Workshop, just proper dice, are very easy and very clear to be seen.
They're not, though. You're both
They
insane.
are, the
Dimmy.
blues are lovely.
Dimmy.
Depends on the colours.
Yeah, it depends on the colours. Some of them I just can't see a damn thing on a Games Workshop dice. I can recognise the symbols if I can see them, but sometimes I just can't.
The ones that come with the game are great.
Yeah, those are very easy
the
and
green
visible.
and blue ones. Well,
yeah.
What I love about the fumble ones, particularly on the black background, or I've got some lovely dark red ones as well, is that the multicoloured symbols, it's really obvious what the symbol's been rolled. And again, you can see them from a distance. And I'm thinking about people like me. If I'm looking, remember I'm sat down usually because I'm lazy, and you're rolling your dice usually down your end of the table. That's what, 4 foot away? And at a strange, slightly steep angle, I'm looking downwards at them, but from not very high. I want to be able to still more or less tell what's been rolled every time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when you say that's a POW, and I just see some squiggles on a brightly coloured cube of plastic, I'm craning over, and I don't want to feel like I'm every time I need to check what
Yeah.
you've said. So yeah, some
Yeah, that's
visibility to it.
exactly it. Actually, it's the psychology of that as well, like feeling like you have to check it.
Yeah.
Oh, are you sure that that burger and a banana is a both down?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But I'll be back to
No, the one
proxies
with Lisa
again here
Simpson's a
now.
push. I told you that.
yeah, it is. It's very similar to the proxy thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Proxy dice, basically, aren't they?
Yeah, we seem to all be very conservative in our desire to give good
Well,
information to others and have it come back to us. Dimmy, how do you feel about these weird dice, mate?
Yeah, I've played against some horrendous ones, and I've asked people to not use ones before. And I mean, I use the UKTC block dice, and I don't know, like some people said to me they didn't like them, but like, I mean, I'll like if someone said to me don't use something, I wouldn't use it, and I think it's one of them things that you might feel shy about telling someone, but if it's really bothering you, I think you should say, look, can you please use another set of block dice or something? Because again, people don't really think about that their opponents. Like, I mean, some people think more than others about their opponents and stuff. So, like, if it bothers you, just say something because 9 times out of 10, the other person's just going to turn around and go, "Yeah, fine, I'll use something else," and then you'll enjoy the game more.
Yeah, I mean, remember, there's always the option. I don't carry other dice. I mean, I do have some other D6s, but I don't carry dice other than my fumble block dice because I would never want to roll anything else. But if someone really objected to them, I'd just say, fine, well, then I'm going to roll your block dice.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
What
that's
I don't
a naff rule, is
understand
you can always roll your opponent's dice. So I'd just do that. That's fine with me.
like, why do people want to use these dice? Because, like, I don't know. Like, why would you want to use different ones
Because
that
they're
are like.
cheating, obviously, Dimmy.
Yeah, mate. There's a Lizard Man dice set, and I don't know which company it is, and they are horrendous. Like they are so bad, and you just don't know what is going on half the game,
I
and
mean,
they're
just like
like,
there's people that want to play a team they've just painted. There's people that like the dice they've got from
I get
certain
it.
events and
Yeah.
they want to use them.
Yeah,
Look,
they buy
it's
them as a theme or whatever, don't they?
yeah, yeah, or
It was a
exactly
problem
themed
at the World
dice.
Cup, though, wasn't it? Because those World Cup dice in Alicante, they weren't great. They were like black on gold, and
Yeah,
the ball wasn't great. But then they implemented a rule to say, you should be using these dice as standard, and a lot of the
yeah.
players were saying, no, we're going to share this set of dice. And in that instance, I suppose it kind of balances it out in a sense, because you're kind of becoming familiar with them by day three. You'd think that you'd have worked out what was what, but I still found it just discombobulated me in terms of being able to
Yeah, I
understand
mean,
what was going
Torquemada
on.
in the chat's just saying he uses yellow and purple pro elf dice. I mean, it sounds to me like anything that's based on yellow and purple, that's going to zing out. I'm going to see what's there.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. Have a bit of thought about your opponent. It was
Yeah.
one of the things that really bothered me at the World Cup. I felt there was a rule, wasn't there, that my opponent could force me to use the World Cup dice.
That's
And I
right. Yeah.
thought, but I hate these dice. I don't find them clear for me to look at for what I've just rolled, let alone to show you what I've just rolled. So I felt
Mm.
that was a restriction I was not happy with. Or as with all rules, I'll obey while I'm there, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. I thought that was very, very terrible. How bad are inappropriately unappealing and hard to read block dice? Out of 10, Deefer, what you giving it?
7.5.
El Duderino.
7, I was going to say 7.
Okay. Dimmy.
7, 7.
21 and a half. I'm going to come in with an 8, and we're going to take that up to 29 and a half. As you can see from my glasses, I really do have increasingly poor eyesight. I don't want to feel that I'm being a dick and asking you to, show me every dice just because I can't see what the hell it is you're rolling. Please be nicer to me than that. I deserve it. I'm quite a nice person, secretly, occasionally. No, I'm
There's a
not really.
lovely
I'm not.
segue onto here for one of mine.
Now, it's been raised by my lovely friend Fumble Krista. It's on my list anyway, so I just want to briefly touch upon it as we are in the area. The first time I had some some dice made, some D6s, my lovely friend Krista, had given me the permission to use the name Team Fumble and take a team to the UKTC. So I wanted to get some dice made with the Fumble F. And as Fumble is, of course, a pun on fumbling, my original thought was to put the F on the one spot. And I happen to know the first time Krista had some dice made, he put the F on the one spot. But there was outrage in the Fumble community about this, and every iteration of Fumble Dice since, despite both him and me agreeing that it's kind of wrong with the joke, we have both acquiesced and now both put our Fumble on the 6. Printing on the 1, is it okay? And using those dice. Oh,
Sorry,
chat,
not
not liking that.
Not
Yeah,
at all.
never,
No,
never
not at all.
pictures on the 1. Dude,
No.
pictures on the 1, is it all right?
No, it happened at the Welsh Euro Open. We had a whole situation where someone had 2 sets of dice, very similar colour. Some had the picture on the 6, some had the picture on the 1. And it worked out that halfway through the game, he hadn't failed a single dodge or anything. And that was a reason why. So, no, absolutely no.
So he was effectively
symbols
rolling
on the
dice
wall.
with no 1s on them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
You know, I won't name names, but I could.
Yeah, we're trying to keep names out where we can.
Yeah, no, but yeah, ask me later. Yeah, I've always thought then, since then, it's terrible. You know, it's picture only on the 6. And another little thing, that picture should not be a 5-pointed star, or a symbol that's got a different number of numbers on it, if you get what I mean. You know.
Okay.
So when you see the 5 points, you think 5, but no, that's the picture. That's actually 6. It's got to be something really standout-y.
What about if it was, say, the words "One World, One Blood Bowl" with then a lovely sort of dice logo in the middle of it, just like the logo for the One World, One Blood Bowl podcast? Wouldn't that be a great dice to have? And if you
Well,
want
no,
them,
that's
they
too
are still
much.
available on eBay. Dimmy, how bad is having the logo on the 1? Would you
It's
bother? Would it mind
yeah,
you?
it's unforgivable. Yeah, it all just comes down to
Unforgivable.
making it is unforgivable. Like that's like cheating in my opinion. Because like the only ones that are okay are the ones that have nothing on all the sides except for one, which is for like a bonehead. So when they roll the bone, like that's the only thing that is like honestly just make it all uniform. Make it illegal to have the logo on anything other than
Wow,
the stick.
wow, what a
Illegal.
dictatorial bunch we are. Deefer, you're a big
Yeah.
rules man.
No,
Make it
I
illegal.
agree.
Police it.
I think in Blood Bowl you can't do it. Like the first War Games club that I joined, we had loads of like thousands of dice made, and they all had the symbols on the 1 because we were all terrible. And that was for a different game system. Though you could kind of get away with it when you're rolling buckets full of dice. But yeah, no, it's outrageous. It is
It's
borderline
outrageous.
cheating.
Wow.
It's borderline cheating.
Borderline
Because
cheating.
yeah, because
Fantastic.
the cultural consensus is that the symbol is the 6. So why would you put it somewhere else?
The cultural consensus, because we can break things and move fast. That's the modern age.
No,
Why do we have
that's
to bend the knee
woke
to just a
nonsense.
cultural consensus? If I explain at the start, look, the picture here's on the 1, isn't that good enough?
No.
No, brilliant. Someone has asked Barney the Lurker with his incredible lateral mind, what about if I put the symbol on the 2? That's nice and safe, isn't it?
That's like classic Barney, there, isn't
It
it?
is. Absolutely it is, yeah.
I think he knows the answer to that, and we shouldn't give him any more airtime.
Good. How bad is having your symbol on the 1 instead of the 6 in your mind? Out of 10. Deeferdan?
And see, everything has to go below what I said for being violent towards people. So 7.9.
Okay. I'm calling that an 8. Duderino?
Yeah, I was thinking about the same. It's like Proxy still has to be the highest for me, so 8.
Okay.
But
16,
I
Dimmy.
8, yeah, 8.
Taking us to 24. I'm like I said, I'm not sure it's that wrong in my heart. I'm giving it a 6, having logo on the 6, logo on the 1 to 30 points of unacceptability. Okay, I think we're over halfway where we're going tonight. We're all not feeling very well, and I did promise you I was going to do this. So the ethics committee was a very recently formed unit, consists of appointed members that have volunteered to support the NAF by developing a new code of conduct, setting up new guidelines, and addressing ethical issues. Here is what the code of conduct is, last updated on May 2024. There's a lot of stuff about talking about the scope and regional variance and then some definitions. But Articles 5 and 6 are probably the meat of it. Article 5 is the NAF values. The NAF strives to ensure respect and protection of the NAF values, which are respect, sporting behaviour, and equality. Every coach participating in a tournament or event, as well as every arbiter and tournament organizer, is obligated to adhere to these principles and ethical norms. All members are treated equally at any given time, with no exception. Does anyone have a problem with any of that? Seems all very normal and good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Dude?
Well,
Green
that
light?
can be covered by "Don't Be a Dick." I think it's great,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but it's putting "Don't Be a Dick" perhaps into less beer and pretzel language for the modern age,
yeah,
maybe. That's probably needed doing, doesn't it? Deefy, you all right with all of that?
Yeah, I think that is exactly it. It's just about formalizing it.
Yeah.
I think this has come. You've got to think about the environment that this has come out of, and it is about the massively increased reach of
Yeah.
the NAF and the tournament scene, and the weird sort of derivations of what people think is normal and acceptable. Not to call these people out, each to their own, but as an example, the topless Blood Bowl tournament
It's on my
started to
list,
happen.
yeah. What do we think of toplessness?
It's not necessary.
Hmm.
Well, enforced toplessness, which is where it started at, and then it started to, be trying to be a bit more inclusive, I suppose.
Yeah.
In the forms of toplessness that were requested. I think it's things like that it's really useful for, because it just kind of reminds people that we are not all necessarily in the same gang,
Yeah.
and we all operate on our own little Blood Bowl silos.
And of course, it's ruinous for diverse people. I mean, women coming to a topless tournament are going to feel incredibly uncomfortable. But frankly, it's much wider than that. I don't want to take my top off, and no one wants me to.
No.
Though, Dimmy's newly sculpted, svelte body, I'd be happy to look at all day. The fact is, most Blood Bowlers are not the towering figure of beauty that he is. So, yeah, I absolutely think that's toxic and awful. The one in there that did interest me was sporting behaviour. I don't think we mean sort of, warm-ups and making sure to do a good half marathon every week. I think we mean in terms of
No.
behaviour towards others, don't we? Dimmy, any worries with what I read out?
No. Like, I mean,
All
like
very
for
sane
me,
and sensible, isn't it?
yeah. I personally don't think any of that needs to really be said. But like,
Sure.
yeah.
So that's just the background, that's the values. Here's the actual rules for both tabletop and online players, and this covers some of the stuff we've touched on, which is interesting. Every coach is obliged to adhere to the NAF values during tabletop play as well as online gaming, including the principles of fair play, honesty in the game, equality, respect for gender, origin, religion, respect for the opponent, respect for dignity, and the right to the privacy of other people. So obviously don't ask them their name. Cheating, as well as any unfair or unsporting behaviour that affects the course or the outcome of the game, is prohibited. This includes giving strategic assistance to a coach playing a game you're not involved in, as well as using guides, probability calculators, or similar tools during a match. The use of physical or verbal aggression towards another person, showing disrespect, humiliating them, or intentionally distracting them during the event is prohibited unless said behaviour is agreed on by both coaches. I think that's a weird sub-clause I want to come back to. And during online games, it's forbidden to influence the result of the online game by any unethical methods, including, but not limited to, intentionally influencing the time or the result of the game, cheating, lending your account to other players without the opponent's approval, and or using game errors for your own benefit. Does that all sound reasonable too?
I'm sorry, I've got to big up talk for what is called that. If you agree on what you're allowed to say to each other, it's called the banter clause.
Right. Okay, do we like the banter clause? So that again, the use of physical or verbal aggression towards another person, showing disrespect, humiliating them, or intentionally distracting them during the event is prohibited unless it's agreed on by both coaches.
I suppose that is an example of the topless Blood Bowl playing, right?
Okay.
We both agree that we're going to take our tops off and call each other dickheads whilst we roll dice at each other. Then that's fine, isn't it? But otherwise, don't do it.
So if I sit down opposite Dimmy and say, is it all right if we verbally abuse each other this game? And Dimmy goes, yeah, I'd go, right, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say it because I'll get, banned on YouTube. But if I said I would see him next Tuesday before we started every action, is that all right? Is that all right for the rest of the tournament just because we're all right with it? Dimmy, any surprises there in the list of our ethical framework that we exist within?
I mean, like, 'cause for me, I like swear a lot and all that, and it's yeah, like if you got to be conscious of who you're playing next to, not just your opponent, right? Because if there's like a younger person there or something like that, like you've probably got to tone it down a bit, you know? Like, because I get a bit animated and I get a bit carried away, but you know.
Yeah, NAF champs, you have to be careful you're not playing like next to one of the Stig students from
Yeah.
Ethermania and things like that. But
Now, it's on my list, so while we're on it, let's focus exactly on this. Someone has said it's toxic and shouldn't be appropriate to play 100% against someone that's clearly a child. Not even a young person, a child. So should you not be at
what's the
100%? Should you
what's
not be playing full throttle? And then, of course, we should talk about what should your language and behaviour be like as well.
right? So where are we here? Am I playing a child at NAF champs?
Yeah.
Right, no, he has to learn. Oh, I'm sorry, no. Because I run the risk of doing a Hellboy and losing to a child. Not going to happen. 100% full throttle, foot on the neck, will not stop. It's the only way they're going to learn. Absolutely no mercy, no quarter ass given.
And this little
I
9-year-old
won't
looks up at you when you
swear, I
kill
won't
his last
swear.
gutter
Honestly,
with a tear
I'll
in
be
his
fouling
eye
the gutter. Oh, yeah, it'll toughen him up for match 2 when it might happen again.
and
But
calls out, "Daddy, Daddy,
absolutely,
all my
yeah.
pieces are dead. The man with the
Oh,
beard
yeah.
killed them all and he's laughing."
You know, if the kid wants to come with me for a fag at half time, that's his business. But other than that, it's no, all bets are off. You destroy.
All bets are off. You destroy, deeferdan.
Well, I agree in the sense that you're playing a game and 100% I agree. So you're playing a game and they've come to play that game, so there's no reason that they should be treated any differently. I know we have like an under 18 trophy at the NAFC. That's the only thing that's different about it. But it doesn't quite sit right with me that we have that trophy because they're not playing in their own group. They're playing everyone. But that's a different issue. But I would say, yeah, you just play normally. And I have done that against a child with wood elves at the NAFC whilst using Kemry and been really miserable and sat up the other end and he's gone,
Okay.
why aren't you scoring a touchdown so that I've got time to score? And I was like, well, you just answered your own question.
Yeah.
so I think it's totally acceptable.
Dimmy.
And a lot of these kids are really bloody good as well, which is a
Yeah,
problem.
Thomas W, for Christ's sake. I mean, yeah.
That's because Thomas W is already 45, at least in his mind. No, he's not. He's a lovely kid. I don't know why I said that. That's horrible of me. Dimmy, full throttle even against kids.
Only if you apologise after every touchdown and every.
Oh, so now you can say
Oh,
sorry.
I'm really
Come
sorry,
on,
mate.
you turn up at Bromley on a nice Saturday, and there he is, little Mini Morg, bouncing around. Hello, Dimmy. Oh, I've heard about you. I'm delighted to play you, Dimmy.
I'm terrified of Mini Morg, honestly, because he always plays Morg. But yeah, no, I played I played one of Stig's kids yesterday, and I just tried to win the game. Like, obviously, when you get to like 3-0, when you get a blitz, you just go, oh, skip it. Like, we'll just, you know what I mean? I won't move anyone.
Okay, so that's not
Like,
full throttle, is it? That's affecting your strength of schedule, your touchdown scored.
It's full throttle until it's like 3-0, and then it's like, right, there's no way I'm losing this. Now
Yeah,
I can be nice, and like you can like, don't worry about that blitz, mate. You just crack on.
And would that be the same if it was just a not very good adult, or is it because it's a child?
I don't know. Maybe it depends on what mood I'm in. Like, a lot of the time, I want to get the game over so I can go for a cigarette. So I'm just like, right, anything to make the game quicker. I've already won this one. It's like, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? And it would be different in a league than what it would at a tournament as well. Like, in a league, I'd probably be more helpful and like more
Yeah.
friendly and
Oh, yeah, of
through
course, yeah.
stands. Like, in a tournament, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna win.
And if strength of schedule matters, there is a point at which you should start coaching them so that they start to win their later
Yeah,
games.
better. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Dude, 3-0 down. It's a child. It's not the NAFC. It's just a Saturday in Bromley. Do you take your foot off their neck now? Do you go a little easier now?
Do I need touchdowns to get better
Yeah,
at the
touchdowns
tournament?
are the first time.
Do I, you know, so no, carry on.
Dan, is there a point at which...
I stopped at 2-0, I reckon.
Okay.
I think it's exactly what Dimmy was saying. Why should you risk your own tournament record?
Yeah.
Like, you're there, it's a tournament, that's the whole point, right? So you want to win, but you could do that in a perfectly reasonable way. And if it is, it's like 2-3-0, then it probably doesn't really matter anymore. So then you can slow it down. But
what about the next person that plays him? who's then going to overtake you on score because he didn't step off
Well,
and
that's
he
like
then scored
touchdown scored
2
as a
more
stupid
touchdowns than
tiebreaker.
you.
But
Well, do you want to
And
go
then
home with the trophy or with being a morally decent human being?
Hang on, so are you now saying that if I don't ease up, I'm not a morally decent human being? Because I
100% I am
think
judging you,
you
yeah.
applying that on me is against the NAF's code of ethics.
It definitely is. I'm sorry for humiliating you and I apologise. Please don't ban me from the NAF. Whoever it is that has the power to do that and however you got into those positions. Um, no, obviously not. But it's an interesting area, isn't it? I do feel that as a parent myself, that if I'm facing some kid and I've ruined their day, or even if I haven't, but it's 3-0 up and I think this is a teaching moment, I should at least be explaining to them why I'm doing this and how I'm doing this and see if I can help them a bit. But perhaps dude's right. Perhaps I should be a lot more selfish than that and not do it. Interesting. I don't think we should score this one because I think a couple of us think that playing 100% against kids is just fine. So it's going to get such a low score, it's just not worth it.
Can I just say, Dementor was a child once, and I've
That's
seen Dementor lose 0-1-5 at a tournament, and scores worse than that.
No, that lad was
Now
born at
play him.
40.
Now play him. You know, he's learned, he grows. You
Yeah.
get better. I did terrible at my first tournament. No one took it easy on me.
Yes. These things happen and people need to learn. I actually think, and having met Stig and met some of his kids and things, I think one of the things they really like about coming to a Blood Bowl tournament is the fact that they're mixing with adults and with adults that take them seriously and just throw everything they've got at them. I think for a 13-year-old to sit opposite like a 45-year-old and play them at a game is an extraordinary experience for that kid. And I kind of don't want to rob them for it by taking it back to a sort of parent-child dynamic to some degree. So there is a point at which you need to stop being a dick to them, but there's also a point at which give them that experience, give them that's what they've signed up for. Let's see how that goes. Right, let's have another couple of random examples off my list, and then we'll go back to you for a second one from each of you. I did ask you for 5, knowing that with some coming out from me and some coming from others, you were never going to get all of them out. We've literally just covered that one. So of course my randomness fell on playing full steam versus a 10-year-old. Okay, we've talked about. I said it would crop up, so let's do it now. We've talked about aggressive chat game. Someone specifically, and they didn't mention you, Dimmy, but they did specifically say inane banter that starts the minute it's my turn and stops the minute it's theirs.
Well,
And they described literally 3 hours of it and said they felt the opponent was weaponizing it deliberately to distract them.
okay.
sounds odd. I can't imagine that situation.
So someone is playing you and they're just focused and they're doing their roles and telling you what the roles are, and then they stop the turn, say, right, now it's your turn.
Okay.
So what do you think about Brexit? It's been odd, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about you, but prices have really gone up. My oldie. There's one just around the corner from me now. Is that all right?
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I there's games where I've played like Everybody's Dead Dave, and me and him talk as much as each other during the game, and it was just one long game of noise as we're talking back and forth. Neither of us, we know each other. Neither of us were doing it deliberately. We both know we're quite verbose. You know, we had, I think El Spoonio was on the next table, and between the three of us, we accounted for 90% of the volume in the room. But that's just us. It wasn't a deliberate thing, you know. What you're describing, yes, weaponizing chat of that nature, maybe being ignorant of my levels of banter. But if I was playing Dimmy or Deefer, for example, or yourself, I imagine it wouldn't be played in silence.
It would. I'd be staring you down.
Yeah, I'd take my glasses off. I couldn't see you.
deeferdan. Inane banter,
Yeah,
but only
that
during your turn.
That sounds odd.
Some people
quite
in Blood Bowl are
calculated.
odd.
Well, yeah, that's true. But it sounds quite calculated.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
I mean,
example
that was the
given.
allegation here, yes. That they felt it was only ever during their turn. There was always focus in their turn and then a distraction during the opponent's turn.
Yeah. I can't imagine that I would particularly enjoy that, but I probably would just chat back because I'm English. I wouldn't complain about it. I'd lean into it.
Yes, it's absolutely fine that you're punching me in the face. I do love being here. So English.
This
I'm not touching your fist.
Yes. Have I hurt your knuckles? I do apologise. If you were called over as a ref and the person said, "Can you just get this person to shut up?" They just won't shut up.
Tricky. That is tricky, and it's never actually come up. Never had any particular like um
But Dimmy is getting
etiquette
out and
like
about
midway through a game issues. But I think you just have a sensible conversation and just say maybe we could tone it down. I guess the other person then says, "Well, that's just how I always talk."
more. Yeah,
Then
that is what you'd say, dude, isn't it?
It's just this is me. Yeah, exactly.
Dimmy, weaponizing inane banter and chat.
Um,
I'm not accusing.
well,
I'm asking what you think of it.
I just don't. I don't think it happens. Really. I mean, I don't think it happens. Obviously, someone thinks it happens, but I mean, that's the sad thing about Blood Bowl for me is that I meet all these people that I really, really like, and I have no time to speak to them because we're playing a game of Blood Bowl. So like, I get like yesterday, I see like 7, 8, 9, 10 people that I really, really like, and I didn't speak to any of them because it's like you're just so locked in on your game and what have you. So. No, it's not really come up. And like, if someone was talking to me all the way through my turn, I'd just ignore them and play my turn. And then as soon as it was their turn, I would just talk back at them. And like, do you know what I mean? You can play with it. Like, you can. If I felt that someone was doing it deliberately, then I would just turn it straight back on them and just do the same thing to them.
Okay. So we think this doesn't happen enough for me to really want to score this one. Let's move on to something I know happens. It's a terrible thing to do. Using your NAF trophy shields as your reroll markers. So as you sit down, you pull out your NAF shields, you put them down on your reroll counter, and you go, yeah, I've won it more than that actually, but I use this as my reroll markers. Is that okay? It's certainly a dominance move. Is it
I like
unacceptable?
it because you can't stack them on top of each other. So at least they're clear because there's like they have them all laid out like they're 4 rerolls and they take one off and it's really clear. I even prefer it to normal reroll tokens.
Okay.
Didn't someone once use the NAF shields as a team, if I remember rightly?
Oh my
I
god.
don't want to name any names, but they had enough.
Deefer?
Proxy. I think it's fine.
Okay.
It's as long as they've taken the time to paint them.
Yeah.
There's one person I know that doesn't just use NAF shields, they use NAF shields and then goes, oh yes, but these are from majors. Which takes me into another behaviour. Dominance statements. Yes, my NAF shields, they're all from majors, and I wouldn't do that if I were you. And, oh, you're going to open with that move. Is it all right to say things that are all about messing with the opponent's head, where you are just literally trying to assert psychological dominance? We talked about an aggressive chat game. This is a psychological, hacking or devious chat game. You are looking for advantage by things you say.
This goes back to what we covered earlier. Is it gamesmanship, isn't
Right.
it? It's it's how much needle do you want to put into it? I mean, again, if it was Dimmy and I was saying, "Oh, you're dodging through there, are you, mate?" That's a totally different to sort of like someone I've never met before.
I mean, if Dimmy
and
said he was
trying
doing
to
that,
do
I'd just assume he didn't understand. I wouldn't think he was messing with me.
I normally sit down with an opponent I've never met before and explain to them I'm quite a big deal. Just start them off right and go from there. But I don't think again, you couldn't do it in a nasty way, and you'd be well within your rights to tell them to shut up.
So only ironically or funnily and with someone you have that sort of relationship with.
Yeah, definitely.
Dimmy?
I agree.
I say all of those things regularly to everyone. Like it's just me. It's just my personality. Like I'm not doing it to be gamesman-y or anything like that. Like sometimes I'm even trying to help people. Like when people just doing a bit of crazy stuff, I'm like, you really want to do that? Like, are you really gonna re-roll that? Like it's just my personality. Like I'm not doing it to be derogatory or whatever. Like. I'm trying to just be helpful. Or like when I'm shocked at something they're doing, like I'm like, are you really gonna do that? Like,
Has anybody ever played Core when he quite happily tells you the best moves to make to beat him? Is he being toxic or is he being helpful? What do you want to say?
It's entirely possible to be helpful whilst also messing with their mind, isn't it? That's not an impossible state. Dan, you're all over this, aren't you? This is a fine thing.
Yeah, I think it's okay. It's just, I think you've got to be careful. Again,
Yeah.
I think I probably agree with Dude. It's fine. I would do it all the time when I'm playing Barney the Lurker. I just wouldn't do it with somebody that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a bit rude if you did it with someone that you didn't know, to be honest, Dimmy.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I've done it to people I hadn't known, but like not like it wasn't malicious. It wasn't like I
Yeah,
was
that's the thing, isn't it? But
game,
yeah,
like, but
I mean, I think
So
Dimmy
we're all
is
saying
such a
we wouldn't do it
guileless,
to one of
sweet-natured
Sticks'
lad.
kids when we're 3-0 up.
Yeah.
oh,
I think
no,
how it's done can
yeah.
vary as well. If it's done with a smile
Yeah.
and a wink, I think most people understand that you're trying to have some fun, not be a dick. But some people get really bothered by the idea of you sort of commenting on their coaching, don't they? They sort of feel it's not, you're here to face me, not teach me shit. You leave me alone. I'm good
I
enough.
don't think I've ever done it.
There you are. So Dude never does it, and Dimmy does it every single turn.
Every game, at least
Every
every
game.
game. Yeah.
How bad is it? Asserting dominance, telling people what you should and shouldn't do. Oh, I wouldn't have done that. Or opening with a big guy. Blimey. How bad out of 10? Dimmy?
I can't mark this high because I'm gonna go 3.
Okay. Dude.
Yeah, it's nothing for me. I'll 2 because
Okay.
it kind of thing.
Dan?
so against a player that you don't know, it's over. It's a 6.
Okay, that takes it to 11. You've scored it more individually than them two together. I'm going to go with a 5, so 16 for dominant chat. I agree. I think it's fine, and mostly it's done with banter. But I've just got to look at those times where that person opposite doesn't want your comment on their play. And there are times that I've seen someone say it, and you can see in the other opponent's eyes the doubt creep in. I'm just not sure that sort of level of hacking is all right. However, as I say, Dimmy is a guileless man. I think if you sat opposite Dimmy, it's not going to feel like that. It's going to feel like someone spending a good time and having a laugh with you, or at least trying to. If you reject that, then obviously that's your personality and you're right. No Thulian, so let's do that next. We've had a suggestion from chat. It is on my list, so let's throw this one at you. The touchdown dance.
To be
It became
fair, it
prevalent
wasn't
more. Dude?
To be fair, I didn't dance when I scored against Fullion. I danced when I killed Morg and Thorg. Okay, it wasn't a touchdown dance. It was I killed Morg dance. So if he's willing to have a pop, he can come and see me next time. All right.
And
Oh,
if
sorry,
anyone's,
was
if
that
anyone's,
aggressive behaviour?
if anyone's seen all the old dancing in Pop World in York, that's terrifying too. But that wasn't as much touchdown dancing as middle-aged men pretending they're young dancing. The touchdown dance. So we've seen it online. I think that's where it came from. It's creeping in on tabletop. I haven't seen it much, but I have seen it start to come. You're 3 steps from the end zone, but before scoring, you do a little circle, or you do a zigzag, or you do some pleasant sign, or you're going to score in the corner, but you walk all the way into the middle and then step over on the halfway line right in the middle. Is the touchdown dance okay, or is it a sign of your inner toxicity? How angry do touchdown dances make us? There's an interesting look on your face, Dimmy. Do we have a confession coming here?
Yeah, I touchdown dance every time.
Wow, it's like I'm almost listing just all the things you do and finding out how bad they
I
are.
feel like someone is just listing everything that I do. But yeah, I worked hard for that touchdown. I deserved it, and I learned it from Kafo. So I'm trying to emulate the best players, be the best player that I can be. So I blame Kafo.
But is
It's
it
fun. It's
okay? If
fun.
someone does it to you, do you feel triggered, or are you alright with it?
No, like again, it's a fantasy game of elves and orcs that we play in like huts and stuff. Like if you're not there to enjoy it, like I feel so sad when you just go and score like, and you just wave your arm and then drag all your models back. Like,
Really?
I'm scared.
Do you insist on counting the little player right over the line to score then?
Oh yeah, and I'll zigzag and I'll move backwards and whatever and, and all sorts. But it's just I don't know.
I don't think I've actually gone over the line for about a year and a half. Dan, how are you feeling about this?
PC, I wouldn't even. I'm normally not the one who puts the figure near the end zone because it's right over the other side of the board.
Yeah, I
I'm
probably haven't.
just like, and move him in for me if you want, mate. But obviously I'm scoring, and then you pull your figures back.
Absolutely, I'm with you, but that's because we're both very old and very lazy.
Yeah.
Dan, the touchdown dance. Have you seen it?
I-
Do you like it? Is it all right?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think I might have done it with an old man who couldn't reach across the board's piece for him. A little written. Okay, mate. And exactly as Dimmy just said, it's what multi-million-dollar American footballers do as they're running into the end zone. They do their little dances.
And that comparison is there, isn't it, between a Blood Bowl coach scoring and a multi-million-pound American footballer?
Yeah, he does his little like dab or whatever. I don't know.
Isn't there a sense when someone's
figure
dancing
is
in,
far more
look how easy it
acceptable
is
than
for me to
actually-
score, I can dance it in?
Well, no. I think I'd be more offended if the opposing coach stood up and actually danced.
I've done that.
No, I'm not into that.
So, yesterday, apparently, Torquemada faced someone doing the touchdown dance before they scored. For the first time, he's experienced that on tabletop. And they even did a GFI to land that touchdown dance. Now, at this point, are we being disrespected, or do we respect the commitment to the touchdown dance?
No, that's stupid.
That is.
Yeah, that is a piss take, and I would hope it would fail.
A step too far, dude?
Dream of the 1 in 36. You would dream of the 1 in 36 at that point. And then, if that did happen, I really would be dancing in front of him then. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we do think it's fine. But if you have to do anything that isn't just the dance and the score, then it's definitely toxic, and we're hoping you fail.
Oh yeah. Like if you've made like a 6+5+ dodge, and then you dance like the last 3 squares, that's horrendous. But well, I'd probably still do it. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to do 3 in quick succession because I think these are all linked. I'm just going to ask for scores first on each one, and then we're going to go back for reasons for all 3 at the same time. So the score for how toxic, how inappropriate is coaching Skaven. Dimmy.
5.
Dan.
1.
Dude.
2, 1. No, it's not.
I'm coming in with a 4.
Easy.
I do think Skaven are horrific, and it says something about you as a human being if you're coaching them.
What, you coach Dark Elves?
I know, I'm just telling you, no one suggested Dark Elves. However, I did have coaching Dwarfs. How unacceptable is coaching Dwarves? 10 from Duderino. Dan.
1 again.
1 again. Yeah, Dimmy.
Yeah, 2.
2. You're never going to get me saying dwarves are inappropriate. I'm going to go with a 1 there.
Yeah,
So then the flip side of this, I think, is the third one. How inappropriate is moaning about the race you have to face?
Oh wow.
No, everything's got its good points and its bad points. Whether it's
online or tabletop, you sit down and the other person goes, "Oh, you've got bloody dwarves. Oh, I hate them. I hate facing them."
Well,
Is that all
of course
right?
they are. They're dwarfs. Everybody hates facing dwarfs. That's just Blood Bowl. That's got nothing to do with the person playing the team.
All right,
It's just
then
the
let's put it
damn
somewhere where
dwarves,
you're
right?
psychologically normal. Rats, they say, "Oh, you're coaching rats." They go, "Oh, I hate facing rats. Only arseholes coach those."
Why would you hate them? They've all got armor 7. Just hit the little things. There's a counter to everything somewhere in Blood Bowl.
So people shouldn't be moaning about what they're sitting to face.
No.
Oh, unless it's like Morgan Fork, Hack Flem, Snotlings, in which case.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they should be moaning about it in
Actually,
certain
now I come to
circumstances.
think about it, yeah. Well, I've got a real thing about star players. I'm not really into them.
But that's not the player's fault, right? It's the
That's the
rule
rule
That's the rule set.
Yeah.
Don't hate the players, hate the game.
Yep. Too true.
So, how unacceptable is moaning about the team you are being asked to face? I'm very guilty of this. I've often sat opposite someone and gone, "You are coaching the worst thing that you could possibly be coaching. You're obviously a terrible person." So, and I mean it. I absolutely mean it. I don't mean it. Dimmy, how terrible is moaning about the team you're being asked to face?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I have this mad ability in Blood Bowl to think every game I've ever played has been the worst possible racial matchup for my team. I don't think I ever moan about it, but the fault is always niggling in the back of my mind, going, "Oh God, like this is like a really rough one for me." But I think that's just human nature. I think like everyone just sees it. I don't think it's like a toxic thing. Like if someone went, "Oh God, I don't want to play your undead," but I like whatever. I don't really care.
But are you? I mean, if someone moans about the team that you've chosen to coach, isn't it degrading your experience? Isn't it
Uh,
against the ethics and morals of the new wonderful Blood Bowl world we should live in?
Not
Jesus
re-
Christ,
like
we're not going to say anything soon.
yeah, like I just think it like honestly that's such a minor thing that I wouldn't even waste my time being pissed off about it.
Okay, so none of us are bothered by any of those three. We're not going to score them, right? We're just going to move on.
Uh,
Okay,
yeah.
we're going to move on. Let's get. I asked you to get some ones of your own, so it's time for your second pick. We ended with Dan, so let's start with Dan, and that's more chance for other
Oh,
people to
okay.
lose one of theirs. Anything else that you've decided is just should be on this list that we should talk about?
So this one is about tournament organisers and their wider harem.
Okay.
And I think came to the fore in Greece, but I wasn't there. But overzealous tournament management, particularly calling games, except for maybe round 3 and 6, with a sort of gusto that maybe makes one think who's like, whilst you're in the middle of a game, uh, that is distracting to the players and also, I think, a little bit disrespectful to the players. When actually, if we have a couple more minutes, everybody'd be a lot happier and we could finish this game. I recognise that I probably sit in a bit of a middle ground around this. But if it's not round 6 of the NAFC and you run over a bit, then everybody will survive. Nobody's died, as far as I'm concerned.
Even though there's an
So
enormous amount of admin to get done, a limited time to get the draw up, everyone wants to know what their next opponent is. You're still prepared to say, "Hang on, we can wait 5-10 minutes here.
I
It's all right."
think, yeah, well, not 10 minutes, but I think for the betterment of the experience, I think there's ways and means as well of doing it. From what I hear from the Greek experience, it was incredibly hard.
Okay.
It was a hard stop.
I mean, I was there. It
Um,
was. It was literally when they said they went around and anyone still doing anything at all, they were saying, "No, you stop now. You don't pick a dice up. You don't move a player. It's all
yeah,
stopped right at this second." The balance of that is they were very, very clear about that pre-tournament that was
yeah,
exactly how they would be.
yeah.
Dibby, overzealous tournament organising and adminning.
Uh, yeah. I mean, it can be annoying. Like the annoying thing is when you start around late and then um like it eats into your time and stuff like that. Like when like they haven't done a draw on time and all that sort of thing, or like. I mean, things happen at tournaments. I'm a TO myself. Like people don't turn up or whatever. Like so that like oh they draw the round and then someone's not quite right, so you have to redraw the round and all that sort of thing. Like they're just things that you've got to accept that will happen. But yeah, it can be annoying. But it's yeah whatever.
Duderino?
No, as having to run the Invitational, we've given you the time. You've had the same time as everybody else. If you can't finish the damn game, you got to speed up or learn to speed up. And again, it's the same as beating the kid 3-0. If you ain't going to learn, you ain't going to learn. And if this helps you, this helps you.
Um, Now it was covered under the rules. Oh, well, so yeah, let's give that a score out of 10. We haven't done that for a while, so let's actually give it a score. How bad is overzealous tournament organising? I agree. I will work with whatever rules that are put in front of me. I believe in the rule of law and following the rules. I don't really need any other aspect of my life, so I don't know why I do. I also believe in being able to give feedback about those rules and say I found those rules shit. But if I've agreed to play that tournament and those are the rules, I will adhere to the rules while I'm there. So I'm not going to moan about Greece, but I do think there is a creeping problem with. I get it. We're assholes and we're hard to organise and hard to shepherd. And keeping anything to time is a nightmare in Blood Bowl. But I do sense it is moving towards the point where I'm feeling there's a little too much control and the boundaries are too severe at times. I'm going
Yeah.
to go first. I'm going to give that. I think overzealous tournament admins are a real threat to having good fun at Blood Bowl, so I'm going to give that a 6 personally, despite it not sounding as bad as some of the other things we've looked at. So 6 from me, dude.
If you've like you say, if they're the rules, they're the time limits, and it's got to get done. It's got to get done. So
2 from
they're
Dude. He
bat,
doesn't
they're
see the
ball.
threat yet. Dimmy?
It's really hard. I'm gonna say 9 because although it hasn't happened to me, I can imagine it being really bad. Like if they've stopped someone's game and not stopped someone else's game and let them continue, like there's like yeah, I'm just gonna think outside of the box. Nothing like this has happened to me, but yeah, 9 because
Okay, so you've no experience of it. You've no idea what it would feel like,
no,
but
no,
you're
no.
scoring it higher than you've scored actual physical
I've heard
violence.
things that have
Brilliant.
happened at other
Um,
tournaments.
we're there with you. We're at 17.
Yeah.
Dan?
It's a 7 for me.
Okay. So
I think
24
it's about
for...
positive experiences and
Yeah.
about harboring that positive experience.
I mean, ultimately, we're not looking for something that you're going to win millions by being the top Blood Bowl player in the world. We're looking
Exactly.
for everyone to have a good laugh here.
Yeah.
They've spent money to come away and have a nice weekend. The tournament should be run primarily to prioritise that, I would say. Not necessarily the moral certitude of every single moment that is spent playing that Blood Bowl. Dimmy, let's have another one that was on your list of things that just shouldn't be or that aren't okay.
I mean, to be honest, like we've pretty much worked through like
Okay.
everything that I
I
had on there.
have a couple more if needs be, and if not, we can stop. We've had plenty of time. Duderino, anything to offer me?
Only if we're going to mention the
Yeah, let's do that one.
bring a spare T-shirt, wear some deodorant.
Smelling
like
offensive whilst playing Blood Bowl, not taking due care of your personal hygiene. It amazes me that at 2-day events some people think it's okay to turn up to day 2 not having had a shower. I mean, we've had them a long time as humanity now, really. Just get with the program there every morning, please. However, I confess I am now converting to the Martian, as I've mentioned before, her way of thinking, which is when we ordered these very specific shirts for the Europen, I ordered one for me, one for Igni, one for Grave, and the Martian said, I want 2. I went, oh, you bring in someone else that happens to be exactly the same size as you. And she said, no, I don't want to wear the same shirt 2 days running. It will smell. I will have a clean shirt ready for day 2. Should we all be thinking like that? Should we all be as nice smelling as Mina was? Inappropriate smells. Dan, how are you feeling about this?
No, I think it's really important, actually. It very much falls in line with the TOing in the sense of having a positive gaming atmosphere and not
a positive gaming aroma.
and I think actually one of the biggest problems is bloody team shirts and stuff like that, and people not wanting a team shirt, which is fair enough, but they're not being able to get 2 team shirts, and they come in with the same shirt on Sunday. There should be a rule about if you wear a shirt, you only wear it for one day. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Should we start normalising one shirt one day?
One shirt one day,
Yeah.
Not
one world, one Blood Bowl, one shirt one day. That's the sub-message of this podcast from now on. Dimmy, people that smell bad at tournaments.
I'll never forget Game 5 at UKTC 2022. I mean, that was horrendous. Like, it was the worst smelling environment I've been in forever.
But I
yeah,
think that was one specific person with presumably some quite terrible bowel condition.
No,
because
like, yeah,
that was
there
a
was
room-changingly bad smell for like
it was
10
unbearable.
minutes.
Like, you didn't want to be in there. Like, it got to the point where I hurried up my game just so I could get out of there so I could breathe again. Like, it was that bad. But yeah, I mean,
I felt a lot of empathy then. I think someone there, I have people in my family that have bowel problems. I think someone that day had an issue with an ongoing medical condition, which was a bad smell for all of us. But I think there's a more general sense of some people don't take enough care of their hygiene. I'm not sure that was that.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I take a little roller deodorant thing with me everywhere I go, and like, yeah, people do definitely need to, especially like, yeah, 2 days and stuff. Especially where people have been drinking, they've been out till early hours in the morning, and then they get up the next day and they don't smell good.
I mean, there used to be a lot more of that, didn't there? I think that's becoming
Yeah,
slightly less, and maybe that's, again, maybe those smells are something we need to put in the past as well. Duderino, is it all right to be minging as long as you're singing and winning?
No, it's it was my biggest bugbear is you got to have a spare T-shirt, wear some deodorant, and have a damn shower. Basic human manners here, ain't it?
yeah.
Okay, let's score. I have to say, we did some interesting work with Arriva, the bus and train people. Firstly, the first time we did it, we won some awards for their quality and diversity work. So they wanted us back. We did some work on sort of basic leadership skills. And one of the things in every Arriva garage that the first level managers were struggling with was challenging members of staff that had inappropriate body odour. It apparently was rife in that industry, and it was just something no one had the skills to confront or talk about. So it could be you Ming, and no one's told you. So, check, ask, and just take showers and use deodorant and stuff like that. How bad is this out of 10, being inappropriately smelly at a tournament or in an event? Or presumably even a league night? Dimmy, how bad out of 10?
8.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, 8.
I was an
Duderino?
8 too. Yeah, 8.
24. I can't have it be more than offensive language because I just don't know that it's deliberate. And I have sympathy. I'm going to give it a 5, meaning it's coming in at... No, that means it's worse than offensive language. Jesus, that comes in at 29. We're not happy if you smell bad. Please try not to.
Yeah.
Okay. Dimmy, I think, is out of options, so let me find another one from my great list, and then we'll start wrapping up. Oh, that's a bit of a hot topic. We've sort of covered that. All right, let's throw that one out just briefly. Online theory bowlers complaining about rule sets despite having 0 tabletop games played. Someone has very specifically complained about this. I mean, I've no idea who or what they mean. Is it okay for people that don't play tabletop to hold forth their opinions based on their knowledge and experience of things like rule sets that are planned for the future for tabletop events? Is that all right? Or is that above
Everybody's
bad
entitled to their
behaviour?
opinion. I don't see why they can't have a good opinion about that because they only play online.
Okay. Duderino, are you against
But
that in
yeah,
any way?
I don't even have opinions about rule sets. They're just
Okay.
the rule sets. They are what they are.
And
Someone's put it together. If I'm going, that's the rule set I'm playing. It's not for me to have an opinion on it.
but you don't mind if people that don't play tabletop have opinions on these things?
Opinions are like arseholes, PC. Everybody's got them, but it don't
Yeah.
mean you want to hear them all, do you? Is it?
Yeah, there's a member of my family that doesn't have an arsehole anymore due to some corrective bowel surgery, but I do get what you mean.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Yeah, sorry, Dimmy, there's some news that you didn't realise. It is possible to be alive and not have a functioning arsehole. I don't see a huge problem here if people want to put opinions forward. You can always ignore them if you don't like them. You're not forced to listen or read anything that you don't wish to. Let me just see if there's anything I think we haven't covered that we really should. Oh, God. The withdrawn offence. It's killing Blood Bowl. Is a withdrawn offence, or DACA as it's sometimes known, a behaviour we should be worried about?
no.
No, it's a tactic with a counter.
We've covered coaching dwarves. Someone has basically said being Thulian in that they've complained about star caddy teams and abusing megastars.
Yeah, I didn't like playing Fulian when he was playing with Morgan Skitter, but he conveniently forgot to put Skitter on, so that's his own bloody fault.
Oh, that's
Next
hilarious.
Okay, how about this? Giving up when you can no longer win the tournament. Now, I hear this is a much worse behaviour that is more prevalent in other sports and hobbies, like 40k. If people don't win the first game, they go home. I genuinely don't think I've come across it in Blood Bowl, but someone has specifically complained about it, saying they were at a tournament where someone played the first 2 games when it was obvious they couldn't win. They packed up and they went home. How bad is that?
Really bad.
Yeah,
Really
really
bad.
bad. Happened quite a lot. I again could name names, but it's so common these people do it that we've got standing jokes about it, that these particular people will do it if their day one hasn't gone well, that they will not turn up on day 2. Again, as an organizer, it's an absolute nightmare because you don't know whether you need your spare players, but from doing this I find out there's always stuff that happens as well. Someone went out for too big a curry on the first night, and sometimes it can end up with a balance and you've normally got a spare player. But I think if you're turning up for 2 days, oh my God, if you're that freaking into it, that if winning was the only thing for you, I'm not sure you're in the right place. For me, it's about the people, the crack,
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, I would agree with Dude. I think I haven't experienced it very much. I'm really surprised to hear that that's happening quite a lot.
Yeah, me
BG.
too.
We've never had it really happen that much at the NAFC. We've had a few people drop out. We had a chap from who came and streamed it a few years ago, and he was totally blown away by the player retention into day two because he was used to streaming AOS and 40k and stuff like that, and they're losing like 30-40% of their field by day two. Where if like one or two people go AWOL, it would be really odd. But conversely, each to their own. If that's what they're there for, and they then want to go home, I'm always going to be setting up my events so that I've got a spare glowworm to just step in or not.
Yeah.
So it's not actually it's a pain in the ass, but it's it's probably better in the long run than them come and being miserable. So
I mean,
their three opponents that they would have had on day two.
yeah, my feeling is, firstly, get the hell over yourself and become someone that enjoys
Yeah.
playing Blood Bowl. You can be competitive, you can be trying to win, and yet you can still accept, okay, after game one, I can't win this, but I'm still here for the event, for the people, for the Blood Bowl. I can still get better. I can still focus my game. I can learn stuff. There's still, I really can't get into the mindset of it, despite being, someone that tries to be quite competitive myself without trying to be a dickhead about it. Dimmy, what are you feeling about this? People that just go, yeah, I'm not winning, so I'm going.
Yeah, again, I haven't really come across it too much. Like, I feel like it's not cool. Because at the end of the day, someone else has paid money to go to the event and get a game. And like, as much as like people say there's subs to step in and stuff, like it's not the same. Like, if you're playing against someone who's not trying to win or like playing a goblin team or whatever, which a lot of the TOs do. I don't know, like whether I'd even want to play that game. Um, so yeah, it's not cool, but like a lot, I also appreciate that things happen and people can't, like
Yeah.
people do need to leave and stuff. That's
We're not
completely
talking about someone
acceptable.
whose, grandfather
But
dies or
yeah,
gets a call from the
yeah.
missus that says one of the kids is ill. I mean, these things happen.
If it's about winning, then it's definitely wrong and shameful.
Shameful.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
come on,
yeah.
Dimmy, look, if you're playing online and someone concedes, they're playing a game, they're having a bad
Online is
time.
different.
Can't they choose
Online
to
is
not play the game?
online is different. Through like because someone else is like I could have travelled from Hastings to Manchester to play 6 games of Blood Bowl. I paid 50 quid. I paid 200 quid for my hotel. Paid 150 quid for my train.
Yeah.
And then they say, "Oh no, you haven't got an opponent for one of those
But so
games."
have I.
Like,
I've paid 150 quid to go to Manchester, so I'm miserable already because I'm in Manchester and it's raining, obviously.
yeah.
I'm playing Blood Bowl, it goes horrifically wrong. And rather than waiting and getting some midnight train home, I think, do you know what? I'm not going to win. I'm not having fun. I'll just go home now. Isn't that all right? Haven't I got that choice?
I mean, it is fine, and you can do it, but like I feel you're not being considerate of the other people at the event and like to the TO and stuff like that. Like you, like for
So I
me
should make my life
personally.
shitter to be considerate to others.
Well, I can only talk for myself personally, and for me personally, I would just play the game. I wouldn't go home. Like I would just play the game, and then if it was a bit shit, so be it. Like
Come on, dude,
it's
Dan, I'm not putting the pressure just on Dimmy here. I'm having a terrible time.
I
Can't I just go home and say I'm not into it anymore?
Well, of
I
course
think
you
that's
can,
fine.
because everybody's got their right to leave at any one point,
Yeah.
haven't they? But it's just, okay, you can do that. Of course you can. My opinion of you will then be my opinion of you, and whether that weighs on your mind at all is that's up to you.
Okay. I mean, I
Yeah.
have to say I'm
Hard.
acting here in case you can't tell. I would not do that, but I can understand the mindset of someone that would. I mean, not understand, but I can, yeah, not empathise, but I can understand.
Yeah, and I think like I said before, like in the wider scheme of things, it's better for the event if they're not there, if that's their mindset at the time. I've had to I had to leave Water Bowl after round 5 a few years ago because it was my son's birthday, and I still felt bloody awful about it.
Yeah.
but maybe that says something
And
about me.
so you should. I mean, you gave up what 2/3 of your son's birthday, but you just wouldn't give up that final little
Exactly,
bit.
might as well give up all of it. What's the point?
Okay, so we're really not happy with this. Out of 10, people that you know, one game they've only drawn game one. They're not going to win the NFC, so that's it. They're off home. How bad out of 10 is that, Dimmy?
9.
El Dude,
Yeah, 8, 9, 9.
Dan.
Honestly, I couldn't give them if that's what they did. I would just be like, all right, see you later. I'd 5.
No,
Okay.
no, but Dan, what about the
23.
people who couldn't get a
Similarly, I'm going to give it a
ticket?
6. That's taking it again
true.
to 29. Quite a high score.
That
But
is a
it's
really good point, actually, Dimmy, that Dimmy just made. Like, I've got 80 reserves for the NAF champs this year.
Yeah.
Some Burke comes along, pays £80 and goes home. Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, they have actually cost someone a
And
seat
maybe that's why people don't go.
that would have played all 6 games. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. It is an age where we expect to be able to do what we want all the time, and I think this might be increasingly more a problem because of that. Or perhaps I'm being old. I get, it's your life. You want to have fun. You're not having fun anymore, surely. But you've sort of made a commitment to that tournament, to the other people at that tournament, to everyone putting, as Dimmy says, their travel, their time, their effort to get into that tournament. For some of us, that's not a common thing. And you've signed a deal that says we're all going to do this until this is done. And I would want everyone to have that mindset. But I just don't think we can expect it or force it because ultimately it's their lives. This isn't a marriage. We've all got one of those, and that's that's a commitment that you can't get out of that will constantly make you miserable. Blood Bowl shouldn't be like that. I love my wife. I'm always joking when I say that, or else she beats me. I think that's pretty much everything. Let me just check there's nothing important I haven't thrown at you except the last one we're going to talk about, which I've saved till last because I find it very boring. But people always say, can you make sure you ask about this? So we will. Okay, let's just... Is there anything wrong with people that pull a chess clock out turn 1?
No.
Anyone want to tell me that's
No.
bad? Demi? Dan?
No, happy.
No, absolutely not. I'll tell you what's bad. Slow playing your half.
Yeah,
And
that
then
is
pulling
on my list.
a chess block out on your opponent's drive.
Yeah, I started the
That is-
second half
that
yesterday.
is
We had
bullshit.
40 minutes for a second half, and I was coaching vampires. So even though we put it on a clock, I had 20 minutes for a half coaching vampires. I thought, there's just no way this ends. It's my fault. I should have clocked it from the very start, like I said I was going to, and I didn't.
Got it at the start.
Okay, the last one I want to talk about is going to be turn 16 fouling. I'm going to give you that warning, which I think has been just talked about to death, so I saved it till last, despite that being the one most people asked about. I just briefly want to cover the last little bit. There's, as well as the laws and regulations of this new moral landscape we walk upon, there is some good habits guide from the NAF. So here's some things we've talked about. These are in their good habits. Should any of these be updated to sort of more into the rules they've talked about, or are we just happy these are good habits and any of them not? Before your match, introduce yourself, share your NAF name, your real name, and your coaching likes and dislikes, whether you'll let them tickle you. Present your team, explaining your player skills and how you show that a mini has acted, whether you're going to flip them or put little markers under for stunned or whatever. Discuss and agree on what amount of takebacks are allowed. Present your dice, explain what any symbols mean, how you will consistently roll them, and deal with any unclear, illegal and or out-of-sequence rolls. Sharing dice when asked for is a NAF rule. The tournament organisers will provide neutral dice if needed. Interesting. Did you know that, Dimmy?
Not neutral. I didn't know you needed neutral
You're a
dice.
tournament organiser. You will provide them.
I could provide them anyway, but yeah, I
Right.
didn't know that I'd have to have them there.
During the match, don't complain about your dice. Do not throw tantrums, and be humble if your dice are great. Be honest. Remind your opponent about rules they may have forgotten, like rolling armour. His troll dies. He doesn't roll the regen. Do you remind him?
Depends who it is.
What's the score?
It's 0-0, dude. This is all for grabs. Do you remind him or her?
I must admit,
Or
it's
them?
the age-old Blood Bowl thing, isn't it? When you remind him he hasn't rolled armor, of course, that's when he's going to break your armor.
Yeah.
But I like to think that myself, yes, I've never let anything go. Like, you forgot your armor, you didn't do your regen, you haven't rolled your KO roll for him, or I've always told them.
Yeah, I mean, there may be times
Even
I
that
haven't, but
kid.
if I haven't, I've forgotten it too. I have to say, I'd prefer to win whilst being scrupulously honest. Dan?
Yeah, I would always remind people, I think.
Roll regen on your troll.
Yeah.
Oh no, your argued call has a +1 because of the...
I've definitely been in situations where it's gone beyond where you can do that, though, and had to then have that conversation.
Yeah.
Which is always awkward, but just get a few more sorries in, which is always, so life affirming.
Yep. There's never too much times you can apologise for. Explain your actions clearly. Avoid confusion. Avoid profanity and or aggressive language, behaviour or attitudes unless you've made sure it's okay with your opponent. Dimmy, do you mind if I punch you if you roll a 6? Is that all right? Try to stick to shared languages and don't exclude your opponent verbally, including when discussing with teammates. Do not waste time trying to influence the result because it could be ruled as cheating. If you want to make sure about keeping time, use a chess clock. If rules issue come up, call a ref and respect the ref's decision. At the end of the game, wish your opponent good luck the rest of the way. Respect the organiser, read the tournament rules, be on time, get a feel for the vibe of the event, introduce yourself, don't interfere with others' matches and keep the venue clean. If alcohol is allowed, drink responsibly, take full responsibility in getting your results to the tournament organiser. All of those good? Should any of those be rules and are they all fine as guidelines?
Oh,
Be on
absolutely
time. Be on time. We're not
Yeah.
Magnus Carlsen, like rocking up to our chess games late. It's some sort of power move.
I think if people are, in the loo or having a cigarette and they're 2 or 3 minutes behind the start of the round, I'm all right with it. But once it's 5 minutes or more, really, we should have started that game now.
Yeah.
Dimmy, you all right with all of those?
Yeah. They're all like I break a lot of those.
Well, stop
But,
doing that.
Yeah, but like it depends if you know them or not, I guess. But
And duderino.
Yeah, they were all fine.
Okay. There's one more I want to just briefly talk about. Being drunk or high. Someone mentioned each of those, one for each. Is it all right if your opponent's drunk or high?
Absolutely fine.
how drunk?
Even if they're not
How
Irish.
high?
Drunk and not Irish.
Uh,
Dimmy, I mean, drunk to the point where they're slurring and, they're obviously just wavering drunk. Not
We've all
like on
played
the floor
Distorter.
asleep, but
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. But like, I heard that someone did get asked to go home at one point from one tournament, and like, but I've never been in. I've never
He
been.
did get physically violent.
right.
Oh,
But as far
did
as
he?
I'm concerned, if you're capable of playing and you can make that thinking to do it, but you've chosen to do that whilst
Oh,
half drunk,
it doesn't
that's
bother
all right.
me. Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
so very briefly, the turn 16 foul, because we do need to wrap up. Turn 16 foul, I mean, I'm bored of talking about it, but here, obviously, we're not talking necessarily about NAF play, where I'm sure no one would give a damn, but about league play or permanent online play, where people are building a team, where they have that role play or that commitment to it. Is it all right? The game's over. It's turn 16. There's no SPP for fouling, unless the Nuffle prayer says there is. So let's say that isn't on. It's a no-gain situation. Is it all right to drop the boot on turn 16 on one of their players?
How can it be a no game situation if it's in the league and therefore they could be playing them again at some point?
It's an open perpetual league. You may never play them again. There's 1,000 people in this league.
But you could.
Okay. I'm sensing it's
only,
always fine with you, dude.
only.
No, I mean, I haven't really got a dog in this fight not playing online, but if you're sort of like worried your pixels are going to get hurt and something that's perfectly within the rules can happens,
Yeah.
and you want to moan about it, you can moan about it, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's within the rules, it can happen. Do you think that person's an arsehole for doing it? Yes, you can think that, but does it make a difference? No. Can you ban it? No. So
Sure.
therefore, you just got to get on with it.
Dan?
Really need a cigarette.
I was just mic dropped for dude. I agree with Paul.
Yeah.
Okay. Dimmy?
I think it's absolutely fine as long as you don't apologise afterwards.
Yeah, I'm giving this a 1. In the words of the legendary Paul Hicks, one of the great foulers of Fumble, who would have fouled his own players if it was available to him to do. He just loved to foul things and watch them die. There was no harm or no maliciousness in him, but also nothing other than fouling. And I think Blood Bowl 2 or 3 has them too, certainly Fumble does, these did you knows that crop up. And he wrote a spoof one. He said, did you know that if the worst thing that happens to you today is someone fouls you and some of your pixels die, then you've had a damn fine day. I just, let's put these things into perspectives. It's a piece. The team is the story. If a piece dies, oh well, a chapter closes and a new one begins. There's a vacancy on that team. Turns out the game lasts 16 turns, not 15. If someone's role-playing and wants to foul, if they hate that piece and want to foul, if they feel it's for justice or vengeance, or it gets their saltiness out and wishes to foul, they should foul. I just don't understand why anyone's got a problem with it. So yes, we will talk about turn 16, but no sympathy from any of the three of us here. So we're not even going to score that. I'm not
No.
going to add up the very low scores that it got. So the worst thing we talked about tonight, other than physically punching somebody in the face, do you want to guess what it was? What got the worst
Proxies.
score?
Proxy
Proxies.
team.
It is using proxy teams.
Oh yeah.
So there you are. If you are out there doing any of these behaviours, you can go to bed happy as long as you're using a team that is an official Games Workshop team and isn't some forks or Lego or just lumps of plastic. Proxy teams are the worst thing in Blood Bowl. You heard it here first. That was One World, One Blood Bowl, number 44. Blood Bowl gone bad. In 2 weeks' time, myself, Andy Davo, Triple Skull, and Jay Leave will be discussing the ongoing situation that is the Euro Bowl rules for Hungary in 2025, which I'm titling currently Euro 25, a Blood Bowl intervention. I think it's too late for anything to change, but we're going to explain why some people are quite as worked up about it as they are. And I'm going to be having to take the opposite view, I think, because even Triple Skull is now a little concerned about some of them. So I'll be trying to ask the good open questions. If you have things to say, even if particularly if they're positive about those rule sets, do come in my Discord, do let me know. I'm looking for lots and lots of stuff for that. And then we'll be doing some more, hopefully by Christmas and the New Year. If everyone could wave and say bye-bye. It's been lovely having you here, dude, and
So
Dan,
long.
and Dimmy, all the Ds. From me, I'm actually called David. Let's do this again. But for now, night-night.
Bye.
Okay, and that's the point I can find